Chapter 1193. 3 days ago, the mysterious supremacy had led them to attack the ancient tree and obtain some silver leaves and fiery wind fruits. Yan Feng had obtained some because he was a genius from the palace of gods of war. He was already a peak 7th heaven venerable realm cultivator. Now, with the help of the fiery phoenix fruit, he had finally broken through to the 8th heaven venerable realm. An 8th heaven supremacy could be considered a peerless expert. Even in the House of Kings, there weren't many of them. Furthermore, every 8th heaven venerate had an extremely honorable status. Even in the House of Kings, they were elders with real power. Moreover, it was very difficult to break through to the 8th heaven supremacy. In addition to extraordinary talent, one also needed a fortuitous encounter and a huge amount of resources. Even so, those who had broken through to the 8th heaven supremacy had white hair. It was very rare for someone as young as Yan Feng to break through to the 8th heaven supremacy. Yan Feng felt the enormous power in his body and immediately revealed an arrogant smile. Lin Xian, the next time we meet, it'll be the time of your death. Lin Xian slowly opened his eyes and stopped cultivating. Then, a smile appeared on his face. With a wave of his hand, a dragon-shaped sword shadow quickly condensed. This dragon-shaped sword shadow was more solid than before. One could even see the dragon scales on it. That's right, this was Lin Xian's sword soul. It had successfully broken through to the 8th heaven supremacy realm. This breakthrough was very smooth because the silver leaves and fiery wind fruits were really heaven-defying items. Lin Xian didn't need to do anything. The pure energy flowed into the great dragon sword soul, allowing it to recover quickly. Not only that, his cultivation had also reached the 7th heaven supremacy realm. Now, a 7th heaven supremacy was no longer a threat to him. Even an 8th heaven supremacy might not be able to defeat him. This was the benefit of the great dragon sword soul. Its powerful combat power allowed Lin Xian to fight across realms. This made up for his lack of age. One had to know that it had only been 4 to 5 years since Xian started cultivating. Compared to the other geniuses, it could be said that he had cultivated for a very short time. However, it was precisely because of the great dragon sword spirit that he was able to contend against those elders. Of course, just having the great dragon sword soul was not enough. It also required tenacious willpower and unremitting efforts. Fortunately, Lin Xian had achieved all of these. In a good mood, Lin Xian stood up and looked around. Among them, the crimson dragon was lying on the side. He had also swallowed the fire phoenix fruit and the silver leaf. His cultivation had also recovered a lot, reaching the 6th firmament of the venerable realm. Although this kind of progress could be said to be slow for the crimson dragon in the past. However, it was not discouraged because they would soon be able to fight the heavenly netherbird. If it could obtain the heavenly netherbird's essence blood, it would be able to greatly increase its cultivation. Moreover, Lin Xian had also collected a lot of natural treasures, so he could exchange them for that drop of dragon blood when he returned to the academy. Therefore, it was only a matter of time before the crimson dragon's cultivation increased. Lin Xian's gaze shifted from the crimson dragon to Zhao Shui. At this moment, Zhao Shui was sitting cross-legged like a beautiful fairy. Her aura was even stronger, reaching the peak of the 7th firmament of the venerable realm. However, it seemed that it was impossible for her to break through to the 8th firmament of the venerable realm. In fact, this was normal. The further one cultivated, the harder it was to break through. This was especially so for the last few firmament of the venerable realm. It required an extremely large amount of energy, which was several times more than the previous firmament of the venerable realm. For example, Yan Feng was already at the peak of the 7th firmament of the venerable realm. He was only able to break through after consuming the fire phoenix fruit. Zhao Shui's cultivation was originally at the 7th firmament of the venerable realm. Now that she had reached the peak of the 7th firmament of the venerable realm, it could be said that she had greatly improved. Moreover, she was the same as Lin Xian. She was also an extremely special martial artist who could fight above her cultivation level. At this moment, the virtual sky behind Zhao Shui had become more solid than before. It was like a real eye, which was very strange and mysterious. Not only that, the eye also emitted a power that surpassed the seventh firmament of the venerable realm. Even Lin Xian felt a chill run down his spine. After an incense stick's time, Zhao Shui opened her eyes and sighed softly. I've already absorbed all the energy in the Dragon Pearl. However, I've only reached the peak of the seventh firmament of the venerable realm. I haven't broken through to the eighth firmament of the venerable realm. It's okay. There are many treasures in the Pine Palace. We still have a chance, Lin Xian comforted with a smile. Zhao Shui nodded and smiled sweetly. It's not that bad. Most of the energy I've absorbed has flowed into the virtual sky eye. Yes, my eye technique has evolved again, which has greatly improved my strength. I can even fight against an eighth firmament of the venerable realm. Lin Xian believed in this very much. Although the virtual sky eye was inferior to his dragon sword soul, it was still very powerful. It should be able to fight against an eighth firmament of the venerable realm. After their cultivation had improved, the two of them set off again. This time, they decided that they had to obtain more natural treasures. This way, they could still improve their strength. At the thought of this, the two of them flashed and quickly flew into the distance. At the same time, the cultivators of the Shen family gathered in a palace. No, this is infuriating. I can't take this lying down. I must kill that brat. Ninth young master gritted his teeth. The brat he was referring to was naturally Lin Xian. He naturally had no enmity with Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian's relationship with Murong Qingqing was not subtle. This made him extremely jealous. Therefore, he wanted to kill Lin Xian by any means possible. Young master, that brat is very strange. If we act rashly, we might not succeed, an elder advised. But I can't take this lying down. Ninth young master had naturally heard of Lin Xian's various achievements. He also knew that his opponent was very difficult to deal with. However, it was difficult for him to give up just like that. Young master, I have an idea. At this moment, a cultivator spoke up. What is it? Tell me quickly. Ninth young master was overjoyed when he heard this. Although we can't catch that brat in a short period of time, we can target him from other places. Doesn't that brat often attack the major forces? If he attacks Murong Qingqing and snatches the treasures of the Murong family. Before he could finish his sentence, the ninth princess was already jumping with joy. This was a brilliant idea. If Lin Xian attacked Murong Qingqing, the relationship between them would definitely break down. However, someone did not understand. Lin Xian is not stupid. Why would he attack Murong Qingqing? This is very simple. We can find someone to pretend to be Lin Xian. This way, the problem will be solved. Young master, I have mastered a secret skill that allows me to transform into someone else's appearance. It is very difficult for cultivators below the challenger level to detect me. A seventh heaven supremacy said. Good, good, good. Ninth young master clapped his hands happily. Don't worry. As long as this matter is completed, I will not mistreat any of you. Chapter 1194. Jiugongzi clapped his hands happily. Don't worry. As long as this mission is completed, I won't mistreat any of you. Thank you, Jiugongzi. The group of warriors rejoiced. They had no choice. Although they were all disciples of the Shen family, compared to Jiugongzi's status, there was still a big gap. If they could help Jiugongzi complete this mission, their status in the family would definitely rise greatly when they returned. Many of them were excited at the thought of this. The middle-aged man who had spoken earlier also used a secret technique. Immediately, a series of crackling sounds came from his body. Under everyone's astonished gazes, the middle-aged man turned into Lin Xian. His height and appearance were exactly the same. Upon closer inspection, it was impossible to tell the difference. Jiugongzi clapped his hands and cheered. Then, he reminded Jiugongzi again. That kid is a swordsman. You must pay attention to that. Also, his cultivation level is not high, so you must hide part of it. However, when you attack, you must show the strength of a seventh heavenly layer. Don't worry, Gongzi. I promise to complete the mission. Then, the fake Lin Xian grinned maliciously. He quickly used his movement technique and ran into the distance. In front of a palace, several elders were rapidly attacking a defensive light screen. Behind these people, there were many martial artists. Among them, there was a beautiful woman in a purple dress. They had not expected to find cold light iron here. What a pleasant surprise. This woman was naturally Murong Qingqing. At this moment, her beautiful eyes were looking at the pieces of metal in the light screen in front of her, and she smiled. The silver-haired granny beside her also smiled. Yes, cold light iron was an excellent material for refining weapons. It was already extinct in the outside world. Who would have thought that it could be found here? Moreover, there seemed to be a lot of them. Looking at the pieces inside, if they were refined, they would be able to refine at least 3.5 Earth-grade treasures. This was a huge fortune for any family. In front, several elders were attacking the light screen with all their might. These elders were very powerful. Their combined attacks caused the light screen to tremble. The light screen did not last long. Cracking sounds came from it, and it finally shattered like glass. Great! The seal is broken! The disciples of the Murong family cheered. Murong Qingqing also smiled. However, at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared. He was as fast as lightning as he dashed towards the few pieces of cold light iron. Who is it? You're courting death! The elders at the front were furious. They didn't expect that someone would dare to take their Murong family's belongings. Immediately, many people made their moves. However, that figure was very strange. He actually dodged all the attacks and quickly snatched the 2 pieces of cold light iron. There were a total of 4 pieces of cold light iron on the ground, and at this moment, half of them were gone. This directly provoked the Murong family. Damn it, stay here! An old man was enraged. He reached out with a terrifying hand that covered the entire area. The surrounding warriors also quickly took action. They formed an encirclement to stop that person. The giant hand that covered the sky slammed down mercilessly. It was as if tens of thousands of giant mountains were crashing down from the sky. At the critical moment, that person snorted coldly. Then, a dazzling sword light flashed. The dazzling sword she slashed hard at the giant hand that covered the sky. Immediately, that old man was forced to take a few steps back. At the same time, that figure also appeared from the void. What? It's you! When the surrounding people saw that figure, they were all stunned. Even Murong Qingqing was dazed for a second. Lin Xian, why are you here? Murong Qingqing was very surprised. She didn't expect that Lin Xian would attack the Murong family. However, Lin Xian smiled faintly. Where there are treasures, I will naturally appear. After saying that, he quickly put the 2 pieces of cold light iron into his storage ring. Seeing this scene, the warriors of the Murong family were enraged. Kid, although you helped the Murong family, it's impossible for you to steal our belongings. If you need this thing, you only need to tell our family and we will give you a piece. However, your current behavior is truly disappointing. Humph, do I need to tell you what I want? Lin Xian snorted coldly. For Murong Qingqing's sake, I won't kill you. Get out of here, or don't blame me for being ruthless. How dare you? Fine. I'd like to see what kind of ability you have that you dare to go against the Murong family. The group of old men was furious. However, Murong Qingqing frowned. She quickly stepped forward to stop those old men. Then, she turned to Lin Xian. Are you in any trouble? Tell me and I can help you. Trouble? What's the trouble? My Lone Star sword needs to be upgraded. This cold light iron is useful to me. If you want to help me, give me the remaining 2 pieces. Young mistress, don't be fooled by this kid. He's obviously a greedy guy. That's right. I thought he was a good person, but now it seems that he's not. The group of old men glared at Lin Xian, their eyes burning with anger. On the other hand, Murong Qingqing frowned even tighter, because in her impression, Lin Xian was not this kind of person. She even suspected that this Lin Xian was a fake. However, she did not find any flaws except for his personality. "Young mistress, don't talk nonsense with him. Capture this kid!" a few old men shouted angrily. Then, they quickly attacked Lin Xian. Lin Xian, on the other hand, sneered and moved. Countless beams of sword light slashed out, forcibly carving out a path. "Damn it! Damn it!" Everyone looked at the escaping figure in anger. However, Murong Qingqing frowned. She definitely did not believe that it was Lin Xian. Although she did not believe it, the others believed it without a doubt. Moreover, those people hated Lin Xian. This made Murong Qingqing's expression very ugly. She sharply sensed that someone seemed to be trying to sow discord between her and Lin Xian. However, she did not have any evidence at the moment, so she could not convince the others. It seemed that she could only wait until the next time she caught that person and exposed his true identity in front of everyone. Only then would everyone believe it. According to Murong Qingqing's guess, if someone wanted to destroy her relationship with Lin Xian, they would not only attack once. In other words, that person would come again. Sure enough, not long after, when they found another treasure land, Lin Xian came again. This time, Murong Qingqing also attacked personally. However, she still let the other party escape because the other party did not fight with her at all. Instead, he relied on his movement technique to dodge quickly. Of course, this time, the other party stole a lot of good things. This made the Murong family even more furious. When Lin Xian robbed the Murong family for the third time, the Murong family completely lost it. They swore that they would catch that kid. This matter was not hidden at all. Soon, it spread throughout the entire Pine Palace. Chapter 1195. Now, everyone knew that Lin Xian had betrayed Murong Qingqing and the Murong family for the sake of treasures. When Jiu Gongzi of the Shen family found out about the Murong family's reaction, he laughed maniacally. Not only did he manage to snatch some treasures, but he also caused the relationship between the Murong family and Lin Xian to worsen. Although Murong Qingqing still did not fully believe him, he was not 100% sure either. Furthermore, the rest of the Murong family hated Lin Xian even more. This directly cut off the possibility of Murong Qingqing and Lin Xian being together. Jiu Gongzi was very happy to hear this news. "Damn brat, how dare he steal my woman? He's courting death. I don't even have to do it myself. I have 100 ways to make sure you can't stay here." The fake Lin Xian also stood at the side and said, "Jiu Gongzi, although we've achieved some results, we can't let our guard down. At the very least, Murong Qingqing is still very suspicious. Why don't I injure a few of the Murong family's martial artists next time? This will definitely cause the relationship between the Murong family and Lin Xian to worsen. Even Murong Qingqing won't let Lin Xian go." "Okay, let's do that." Jiu Gongzi nodded, and a cruel smile appeared on his face. "If necessary, we can kill a few of the Murong family." After Lin Xian and Zhao Shui came out, they realized that something was wrong. This was because he realized that the way the people looked at him had changed. It was different from before. Previously, they looked at him with fear, but now, there was a trace of disdain in their eyes. It was as if Lin Xian had done something that angered the heavens and the people. This made Lin Xian very suspicious. One had to know that he had been cultivating in seclusion for the past few days. He did not do anything at all. Could it be the Palace of War's doing? Lin Xian frowned. If there was anything that had happened recently, it would undoubtedly be the battle with the Palace of Gods of War. Moreover, he had obtained quite a number of fire phoenix fruits. However, there was nothing to despise about this matter. Therefore, Lin Xian could not understand. However, with his outstanding soul force, he was able to eavesdrop on some of their conversations. Humph, this guy is really shameless. He even snatched the things of the sect. Yeah, it's said that he has a good relationship with Murong Qingqing. I didn't expect this guy to do it. Scum! Scum! Robbing Murong Qingqing? Hearing these words, Lin Xian's frown deepened. When had he ever snatched Murong Qingqing's things? However, from the looks of these people, it did not seem fake. It seemed that Murong Qingqing had indeed been attacked. And that person was pretending to be him. In an instant, Lin Xian understood all the key points. Then, his face darkened. Needless to say, this person was trying to frame him and destroy his relationship with Murong Qingqing. This method was really vicious. Moreover, from the conversations of these people, it seemed that the impostor had done it more than once and succeeded every time. Until now, no one had seen through his disguise. It had to be said that the impostor had some tricks up his sleeve. However, Lin Xian had many enemies. It was possible that every faction could do something like this. However, after eliminating the possibilities, Lin Xian finally locked onto two targets. One was the Palace of Gods of War. That was because the Palace of Gods of War had recently suffered a great loss at his hands. Therefore, it was very likely that this was their revenge. The second target was the Shen family. Because the ninth young master of the Shen family had been chasing after Murong Qingqing, he had become a love rival in the eyes of the Shen family. Therefore, this could also be done by the Shen family. However, no matter who it was, this matter had angered Lin Xian. Therefore, he would not let the impostor off. Now, the most important thing was to find Murong Qingqing and explain this matter clearly. Moreover, he was slightly worried. If it was the Shen family, it would be fine. At least Murong Qingqing would not be in any danger. However, if this was done by the Palace of Gods of War, it was very likely that they would kill Murong Qingqing. Lin Xian would not allow this to happen. Zhao Shui used the virtual eye. I want to lock onto the Murong family's direction. Zhao Shui also knew about this matter. Therefore, she did not hesitate. Her palms quickly formed a seal. The virtual eye quickly condensed above her and scanned the entire space. Soon, it found the Murong family. In the southwest direction, in front of a palace. They seemed to be breaking a seal. Hearing this, Lin Xian nodded. Then, he stomped his foot and flew out like a shooting star. Zhao Shui also floated behind Lin Xian like a fairy. The Murong family was indeed breaking a seal. However, their ultimate goal was not to obtain the treasure this time. Their ultimate goal was to lure Lin Xian out and then capture him. This was because they had had enough. Over the past few days, Lin Xian had robbed them of most of their treasures. This made them very angry. Therefore, this time, they had set up a trap. They had to capture Lin Xian and teach him a lesson. After all, the Murong family was the house of kings. They would not allow anyone to provoke them. This time, Murong Qingqing did not refuse. This was because she also wanted to capture Lin Xian and reveal his true identity in front of everyone. The seal was quickly breaking. Murong Qingqing and the others looked solemn as they quickly scanned their surroundings. The reason for that was because they knew that the moment the seal was truly broken would be the moment Lin Xian came out. Indeed, the moment the seal was broken, the void vibrated and a golden ray of light shot towards them. Like a shocking rainbow, this sword strike was swift and fierce to the extreme. However, what shocked everyone was that this sword was not aimed at the treasure. Instead, it was aimed at one of the warriors from the Murong family. Boom! A low sound was heard. Then, the warrior from the Murong family was sent flying. There was a terrifying sword wound on his body. Kid, you're courting death! The Murong family was completely enraged. They did not expect Lin Xian to attack them. The previous 3 times, Lin Xianzi was much stronger than them. Hence, their treasures did not attack them. Therefore, they thought that Lin Xian would not attack them. However, now that Lin Xian had come to harass their master, they did not even have time to think about it. Ah, you've gone too far! An elder from the Murong family roared at the sky. Terrifying spiritual energy exploded from his body. This time, he must capture Lin Xian. The other warriors were also extremely angry. They all blocked the figure. Murong Qingqing was also stunned. She could not understand why Lin Xian would do something like this to her people. She could not believe it. However, if this was a fake Lin Xian, then where was the real Lin Xian? It had been so many days. Why had he not come out? Her heart was in a mess. However, at this moment, Lin Xian sneered. The sword light lit up again. This time, his target was still the disciples. Chapter 1196. That was because those disciples had not reached the 7th level of the honorable realm, so they could not resist his sword chi. How dare you, kid! I'm going to kill you! Despicable, come at me if you dare! The elders of the Murong family roared as they charged forward with all their might. However, the figure did not fight them at all. Instead, he chose to attack a few disciples. A ray of sword light that looked like a murderous sword slashed towards the head of one of the disciples. This sword was extremely sharp. If the disciple was hit, he would definitely die. The elders behind him roared angrily, but they could not stop the attack in time. In an instant, everyone's faces were filled with anger and despair. The disciple who was attacked was even more stunned as he stood rooted to the ground. He could not dodge it at all. Just as everyone thought that the disciple was about to die, the void suddenly fluctuated. A ray of ice flew past and formed an ice wall that blocked the sword chi. Then, another ray of lightning flashed and shattered the sword chi. This action was extremely fast and was completed in an instant. Lin Xian let out a soft cry of surprise because he didn't expect someone to be able to block his attack. In the next moment, his face darkened as he looked behind him. Then, his pupils constricted as he stood rooted to the ground. She was not the only one who was stunned. Everyone was stunned. The ancient martial artists of the Murong family were all stunned as they stared in front of them in disbelief. Murong Qingqing heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that she had guessed correctly. It turned out that Lin Xian and Zhao Shui had appeared behind them. The people of the Murong family did not expect to see two Lin Xian at the same time. That was why they were stunned. Murong Qingqing knew that her guess was correct. That meant that the Lin Xian from before was a fake. This way, the crisis between Lin Xian and her family was resolved. At this moment, even the elders of the Murong family understood. They glared at the figure and said, "So you're a fake? Speak. What is your purpose for deliberately trying to sabotage this? Why are you wasting your breath on him? Capture him. I want to see who he really is. It doesn't matter which power they are from. Since they dared to provoke our Murong family, we must take revenge." The elders shouted coldly, their eyes burning with anger. It was too dangerous. If not for Lin Xian and Zhao Shui's timely appearance, they would have suffered heavy losses. Furthermore, they would seek revenge on Lin Xian and Zhao Shui in the future. This way, the person who acted in the dark would benefit from it. The Murong family had dominated the Sky Martial continent for so many years. When had they ever been schemed against? Thus, they could not take this lying down. Lin Xian sneered as he looked at the figure. "You're pretty smart. Even I couldn't identify you." On the other hand, the fake Lin Xian had an ugly expression on his face. He didn't expect to meet the real Lin Xian at this time. This was something he had never expected before. That was because the real Lin Xian hadn't appeared in the past few days. Thus, he didn't take it to heart. Furthermore, before he made his move, he had placed informants in the surroundings. As long as the real Lin Xian appeared, those informants would sound the alarm. When that happened, he would immediately leave. However, he didn't expect that his informants had been discovered by Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. Furthermore, they had been silently eliminated by the two of them. Thus, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui's arrival didn't alert anyone. Naturally, the fake Lin Xian didn't know. The fake Lin Xian gritted his teeth and said, "Kid, you're lucky today. However, one day, you'll die in our hands." With that, he took out 2 balls of light the size of a longan fruit from his storage ring. Then, he smashed them into the void. Instantly, the 2 balls of light collided and exploded with a light more dazzling than the sun. In an instant, it enveloped the entire space. The light was so intense that even honorable ones didn't dare to look directly at it. Thus, when the light appeared, many warriors from the Murong family screamed in agony. The other warriors were so frightened that they closed their eyes, not daring to look directly at it. Eminent, we've been tricked! A group of Murong family elders roared in anger. Then, they extended their soul power in an attempt to capture the fake Lin Xian. However, other than taking out 2 balls of light, the fake Lin Xian sprinkled a layer of light powder on his body. Instantly, the probing of their soul power was blocked. The fake Lin Xian sneered and was about to leave. However, at this moment, a ray of light slashed at him and stopped him. What? This is impossible! How did you discover me? The fake Lin Xian was stunned. He didn't expect anyone to be able to track him. After all, the 2 balls of light that he took out were known as the Sun God's balls. They were the best treasures for escaping. When the light appeared, no one below the king level dared to look directly at it. Moreover, the light powder that he sprinkled had the effect of isolating soul power. Thus, as long as he used these 2 treasures, he would definitely be able to escape safely. However, he didn't expect that just as he moved, someone would block his path. How could he not be shocked? He didn't know that Zhao Shui's void sky eye was extremely mysterious. Furthermore, it had just evolved. What others couldn't do, the void sky eye could do. Thus, as soon as the fake Lin Xian moved, he was immediately targeted by the void heaven eyes. Seeing that the light from the sun god's balls was getting weaker and weaker, the fake Lin Xian was extremely anxious. If the light disappeared, he wouldn't be able to escape. At that time, he would have to bear the wrath of the entire Murong family. Thinking of this, his heart trembled. Eminent, get out of my way! The fake Lin Xian slashed out with his sword. Resplendent sword light filled the sky and quickly cut through the void. Playing with a sword in front of me? You're still too inexperienced. Lin Xian raised his finger and a sword aura quickly flew out from his fingertip. This sword aura contained the 3 attributes of wind, lightning, and fire. It could be said to be extremely powerful. It was like a shocking rainbow that instantly streaked across the void. Wherever it passed, raging waves crashed onto the shore. Terrifying spiritual energy instantly filled the surroundings. The 2 sword auras collided without any pause. The sword aura that Lin Xian used instantly cut the fake sword aura in half. Then, it slashed forward with an even more violent stance. How is this possible? The fake Lin Xian was shocked. He couldn't believe that the other party could so easily break his sword aura. One had to know that he was a 7th level Venerable Realm cultivator. That sword aura was his strongest attack. Even a cultivator of the same level would have to use all their strength to deal with it. However, the other party had broken his attack with just a flick of his finger. This was simply too unbelievable. In fact, he was even a little dazed. Just as the 2 of them were exchanging blows, the light that filled the sky disappeared. Then, the Murong family members regained their vision. They opened their eyes and stared at the fake Lin Xian. Chapter 1197. Then, the martial artists from the Murong family flew into the sky and quickly caught the fake Lin Xian. They had no choice. None of the 7th level venerables could escape from so many powerful martial artists. Tell me, who are you? Hurry up and show your true face. Otherwise, I have 100 ways to make you regret being born in this world. The martial artists from the Murong family gritted their teeth and used their fierce techniques. Soon, the fake Lin Xian could not hold on any longer and showed his true face. It was a middle-aged man with the Shen family's emblem on his body. Therefore, the Murong family recognized him at a glance. The Shen family! You're from the Shen family! The elder from the Murong family was shocked when he saw the man. Then, he asked in a low voice. Tell me, why did the Shen family attack the Murong family? What other schemes do you have? The middle-aged man was on the verge of tears. No, there's no other scheme. We attacked because we wanted to destroy the close relationship between Murong Qingqing and Lin Xian. Under such circumstances, the middle-aged man consciously confessed everything. Then, the faces of the Murong family darkened. Murong Qingqing was so angry that her face turned pale. She did not expect the damned 9th young lord to be so despicable as to come up with such a plan. If Lin Xian had not arrived in time and dispelled the other party's scheme, the Murong family and Lin Xian would have fought to the death in the future. Thinking of this, she felt a lingering fear. The damned Shen family has gone too far. The martial artists from the Murong family were furious. No, I can't take this lying down. I have to talk to them. What's so arrogant about the Shen family? We're all members of the House of Kings. If we really fight, we're not afraid of each other. These people were furious. However, Murong Qingqing looked at Lin Xian and asked, "What do you think? The Shen family is so vicious. We can't let them go. However, the other party is the House of Kings after all. They are very powerful. If we fight them head-on, I'm afraid both sides will suffer. At that time, our competitiveness in Deep Pine Hall will be greatly reduced. This is not a good thing for us." Hearing this, everyone nodded. Indeed, Lin Xian was right. However, there were still many people who were angry. They simply could not swallow this anger. Seeing their expressions, Lin Xian spoke again. "I don't plan to beat them either, but we don't have to do it ourselves." "Oh, it seems that you have a way," Murong Qingqing asked. "Of course, an eye for an eye. Don't they like to frame others? Today, I will let them have a taste of this kind of framing." Then, Lin Xian sneered. His body emitted a series of crackling sounds, and his face began to change. Finally, an elder Qing Yun stood in front of them. For a moment, everyone was stunned. The middle-aged man on the ground widened his eyes as if he had seen this before. "You!" He pointed at Lin Xian and was speechless for a long time. He was shocked, too shocked. He did not expect that the other party would also know this kind of disguise. It was so exquisite that it was not inferior to his. Thinking of what the other party was going to do next, the middle-aged man felt a wave of fear. Needless to say, the Shen family was definitely going to be unlucky. However, he was now caught and could not send the news back. Murong Qingqing was still worried. "Although I can't tell whether your appearance is real or fake, Elder Qing Yun's martial arts are all the martial arts of the Shen family. Outsiders can't do it. Don't worry about that. I have seen the old man in action. I have memorized all his moves." Lin Xian smiled and threw out a punch. The punch was very ethereal, like a cloud. It was traceless and terrifying. In an instant, the void in front of it exploded. "That's the limitless fist!" The people from the Murong family were shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian to use the martial arts of the Shen family. The middle-aged man from the Shen family was even more shocked. That scene was completely beyond his imagination. He could not figure out how the other party did it. Lin Xian smiled and did not say anything. His palms stretched out again. This time, it was a huge green hand that covered the sky. There were wood-like patterns on it, and it was very mysterious. That palm easily tore through time and space. "That's the green cloud hand!" Everyone once again sucked in a breath of cold air, because this green cloud hand was Elder Qing Yun's famous unique skill. However, they did not expect that Lin Xian would also use it. Moreover, they could not see any flaws at all. For a moment, everyone looked at Lin Xian in shock. The middle-aged man's face was full of despair. He knew that the Shen family was in big trouble this time. "When did you learn the martial arts of the Shen family?" Murong Qingqing was very curious. Lin Xian smiled but did not say anything. He did not know the martial arts of the Shen family. The reason why he could use the green cloud hand was because of the dragon sword soul in his body. The dragon sword soul was an offensive sacred art in the world. It could simulate and evolve everything. He had seen Elder Qing Yun in action before, so he was very clear about his opponent's moves. It was not difficult for him to use the dragon sword soul to evolve it. What happened next was easy. Lin Xian pretended to be Elder Qing Yun, and then sneaked up on the Palace of Ares to make the Palace of Ares and the Shen family start a war. This way, he could deal a good blow to the Shen family and not deplete the combat power of the Murong family. It could be said to be killing two birds with one stone. At the side, Zhao Shui used her void eye and quickly locked onto the positions of the Shen family and the Palace of Ares. Then, Lin Xian's figure flashed and quickly flew in the direction of the palace of Ares. Haha, we are really lucky this time. We actually found 2 treasures at the same time. Duan Tianlang was very excited. Yan Feng has already gone to the other treasure. We must get the treasure in this place. Duan Tianlang was very confident because Yan Feng had already broken through to the 8th heaven honorable realm. There were probably not many people in the Pine Palace who could be his match. His cultivation had also improved greatly, and reached the peak of the 7th heaven honorable realm. As long as he did not encounter an 8th heaven honorable realm, no one could beat him. He was very confident about this. Under Duan Tianlang's lead, many martial artists from the palace of Ares attacked the light screen and quickly broke the seal. Looking at the treasures in front of them, the eyes of the people from the palace of Ares burned with passion, and they laughed happily. However, the situation suddenly changed. A huge green hand covered the sky like a dark cloud and covered everyone. Then, it slammed down. The void was torn apart, and the wind howled. A terrifying force surged down. In an instant, the expressions of the martial artists from the palace of Ares changed. However, Duan Tianlang's face was hideous. How dare you! How dare you snatch the treasures of the palace of Ares! No matter who you are dead meat! He roared wildly and punched out. The huge fist was like a heavenly pillar as it met the huge hand that covered the sky. Chapter 1198. Duan Tianlang was furious. He didn't expect that someone would dare to target the palace of gods of war, and the timing was perfect. It was the exact moment when they broke the seal. The other party must have been hiding nearby for a long time. However, he didn't notice it before. He couldn't help but be shocked. However, he was relieved that the other party's aura hadn't reached the 8th firmament, so he was confident that he could take him down. After the attack, the entire void trembled, and Duan Tianlang's expression changed again. Qingyun hand? You're Elder Qingyun. You have good taste. It's me. An old figure appeared in the distance. It was Elder Qingyun from the Shen family. Damn you, Qingyun, why did you attack us for no reason? Duan Tianlang gritted his teeth. Nonsense, of course it's to snatch the treasures. The Palace of Gods of War has been lucky recently and found many treasures. However, don't be so greedy. Everyone has a share. Why don't you share some with me? What a joke. We found these things, so they're ours. How can we share them with you? Old man Qingyun, I don't want to attack you because you're from the Shen family. Get lost if you know what's good for you. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Humph, you dare to teach me a lesson? Elder Qingyun snorted and said, I was wondering why you were so arrogant. It turns out that your cultivation has reached the peak of the 7th firmament supremacy. It seems that you've benefited a lot these days. Great, I'll test your strength as a peak 7th firmament supremacy. With that, Elder Qingyun attacked again, and the terrifying green palm grabbed forward. Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. Duan Tianlang sneered, and an unparalleled aura erupted from his body. Duan Tianlang displayed his powerful combat strength and attacked Elder Qingyun. However, Elder Qingyun didn't fight him head-on. He just dodged quickly. Moreover, the large green palm grabbed many treasures and even injured many of the Palace of Gods of War's martial artists. In the end, Elder Qingyun left with a full load. Only Duan Tianlang and a group of martial artists were left howling on the ground. Aggrieved, it was too aggrieved. Duan Tianlang's lungs were about to explode. The other party was clearly weaker than him. If they were to fight head-on, he was confident that he could defeat the other party. However, that Elder Qingyun didn't fight with him at all. Furthermore, he specifically targeted the weaker disciples. This caused Duan Tianlang to be incomparably furious. It was as if he had punched cotton, unable to exert any strength at all. Furthermore, he had just advanced to the peak 7th heavenly layer exalted realm. He was extremely proud of himself, but he never expected to receive such a blow. In the next moment, he let out a furious roar. His figure flickered as he quickly flew towards Elder Qin Yun. That Elder Qin Yun was naturally not the real one, but Lin Xian in disguise. He was currently flying in the direction of the Shen family. When he arrived near the Shen family, his figure flashed, and he hid in the void. Not long after, Duan Tianlang caught up. He released his soul power, and quickly located the Shen family. With a furious roar, Duan Tianlang slammed his palm forward. Boom! The trees in front of them collapsed, and the entire ground shook. However, amidst the violent shaking, angry roars could be heard. Then, one by one, figures soared into the sky, and powerful auras filled the surroundings. Who are you? How dare you sneak an attack on the Shen family? You must be tired of living! Countless angry voices could be heard. It was obvious that the warriors of the Shen family were enraged. One had to know that they were the House of Kings. They were usually supreme existences. However, someone had actually dared to sneak an attack on them. It was really intolerable. However, when they saw the person who attacked, their faces immediately darkened. Duan Tianlang, are you crazy? How dare you attack us? Don't think that you can act without scruples just because you're from the Palace of Gods of War. If you don't give us an explanation today, don't even think about leaving. The 9th young master of the Shen family shouted angrily. However, Duan Tianlang seemed to have not heard him. He stared at Elder Qin Yun. Explanation? What explanation do you want? Why didn't you give us an explanation when that old man Qin Yun snatched the treasures of the Palace of Gods of War? Why didn't you give us an explanation when he planned to attack the disciples of the Palace of Gods of War? Don't you think it's ridiculous that you're asking for an explanation now? Elder Qin Yun? The martial artists of the Shen family were stunned. Then, they were enraged. What kind of joke is this? Elder Qin Yun is with us this time. Why would he attack the Palace of Gods of War? Humph, if you want to attack the Shen family, please find a better reason. Do you really think we're idiots with this lousy excuse? Don't talk nonsense with him. This guy is obviously trying to snatch the treasures of the Shen family. The group of martial artists of the Shen family shouted angrily. Elder Qin Yun also snorted coldly. Duan Tianlang, are you old and blind? Why would I attack the Palace of Gods of War? Whether you did or not, we'll know when I take you down and search your storage ring. Duan Tianlang sneered. Then, he quickly attacked. You're courting death. Elder Qin Yun was furious. He did not expect Duan Tianlang to attack him directly without any consideration for his feelings. This made him furious. One had to know that they were in the territory of the Shen family. With a snort, Elder Qin Yun stretched out his Qin Yun hand and grabbed forward. In the past, he and Duan Tianlang were equally matched. However, Duan Tianlang had just broken through to the peak of the 7th heaven of the supremacy realm recently. Therefore, Elder Qin Yun was no match for Duan Tianlang now. Therefore, after one strike, Elder Qin Yun was beaten back again and again. He was even injured. Instantly, the surrounding martial artists of the Shen family were furious. They no longer cared about the rules of the underworld and quickly rushed forward. Although Duan Tianlang's cultivation had reached the peak of the 7th heaven of the supremacy realm, he was not invincible. In addition, the martial artists of the Shen family were all experts. Therefore, it did not take long for him to escape with serious injuries. After beating Duan Tianlang away, the Shen family had vented their anger. Moreover, they did not pay much attention to it. However, Duan Tianlang could not take this lying down. After returning, he told the other experts of the Palace of Gods of War about this. Then, the people of the Palace of Gods of War discussed it, and felt that they should attack again. If this was in the past, they might have thought about it for a long time. After all, the other party was also a member of the House of Kings. If they attacked rashly, both sides would suffer. However, it was different now. They had just broken through a few days ago, and their strength had increased greatly. Originally, they were in high spirits and thought that they had surpassed the other members of the House of Kings. However, they did not expect to suffer such a huge loss at this time. According to their personalities, how could they tolerate it? Therefore, it did not take long for Duan Tianlang, Yan Feng, and the others to attack again with the experts of the Palace of Gods of War. This battle was naturally defeated by the Shen family because they did not have an eighth heaven's supremacy present. On the other hand, Yan Feng had already broken through to the eighth heaven of the supremacy realm. Although he had just entered the eighth heaven of the supremacy realm, he was not someone that those seventh heaven supremacies could compare to. Chapter 1199. Therefore, there was no suspense in this battle. Otherwise, the news of this battle would have quickly spread throughout the entire Pine Palace. All the factions knew that the Palace of Gods of War and the Shen family had fought. And the result was that the Shen family was defeated. Lin Xian, Murong Qingqing, and the others naturally heard the news as well. Then they all laughed. They were naturally happy that the Shen family had been defeated. However, other than being happy, they were also very surprised. This was because according to their original predictions, the Shen family and the Palace of Gods of War should have suffered great losses. However, they did not expect that the Shen family would be defeated this time and the Palace of Gods of War would not suffer much damage. Therefore, they quickly inquired about the news. When they learned that Yan Feng had broken through to the eighth heaven of supremacy realm, they all gasped. This time, the various sects had sent many experts, but they were basically all seventh heaven supremacies. It seemed that only the Sword Supremacy Senior from the deity Sword Villa had an eighth heaven supremacy. Other than that, there was probably no one else. However, now that Yan Feng had broken through to the eighth heaven of supremacy realm, this was a huge threat to everyone. Lin Xian was also very surprised. He did not expect that Yan Feng had broken through. It seemed that after they left that day, the people from the Palace of Gods of War should have attacked the ancient tree. Perhaps they had obtained some fire phoenix fruits, which allowed Yan Feng to break through. Although he was very surprised by this news, he did not take it to heart. So what if Yan Feng had broken through? One had to know that he had also broken through. His cultivation had increased, and his dragon sword soul had also reached the eighth heaven supremacy realm. Lin Xian did not even care about ordinary eighth heaven supremacies, let alone Yan Feng who had just entered the eighth heaven supremacy realm. Zhao Shui did not have much of a reaction. Although she was only at the peak of the seventh heaven supremacy realm, her real combat strength was not much weaker than an eighth heaven supremacy realm. The Murong family was more or less nervous. After all, the appearance of an eighth heaven supremacy realm was still a huge threat to them. However, Murong Qingqing was very calm. This was because they had obtained many natural treasures these days. It would not take long for her to break through. At that time, even if her cultivation couldn't reach the eighth level of the Venerate realm, her battle prowess definitely wouldn't lose to an eighth level Venerate realm cultivator with the true Phoenix Imperial Jade seal in her hands. However, this matter still rang an alarm bell for them. In other words, within Pine Palace, anyone could break through. They had to find enough heavenly treasures to ensure that they did not fall behind others. A few days later, another major event occurred in Deep Pine Hall, shocking everyone. Somewhere in the Dark Pine Palace, an extremely sharp aura suddenly appeared. Then, a huge sword Shi light pierced through the sky, shocking everyone. This ray of light only existed for an instant before disappearing into the sky. However, the shock it produced lasted for a long time. Because this aura was too terrifying, it made everyone tremble. Soon, all kinds of discussions broke out in the crowd. This aura is too terrifying. I'm afraid it has already surpassed the level of a half-Earth tier treasure. Indeed. My weapon has already begun to tremble under that sword chi. This is definitely not the power of a half-Earth rank artifact. It can't be an Earth-step treasure, right? It's possible. For a moment, many warriors were excited as they all rushed towards the direction of the sword chi. Lin Xian was also very surprised. When the sword chi appeared, he also felt a sharp aura. Moreover, his Lone Star sword also began to tremble slightly. He knew that this was the sign of a peerless weapon being born. It seemed that there was a peerless weapon in this place. Moreover, from the light, it should be a peerless treasure sword. As a swordsman, Lin Xian would not miss such a good opportunity. Therefore, he and Zhao Xuezhan moved and quickly flew in that direction. The Murong family members discussed for a while and then quickly followed under the lead of Murong Qingqing. This sword chi not only alarmed the warriors in Deep Pine Palace, but also the heavenly netherbird outside Deep Pine Palace. Looking at the flash of light, the heavenly netherbird narrowed its eyes. I didn't expect that thing to still exist. I remember that it was broken a long time ago. However, even if it's just a fragment, I can't let it fall into the hands of those humans. There was a hint of fear in the heavenly netherbbird's eyes. But soon after, he revealed a sly smile. In the next moment, it waved its giant claws and a black flame formed in front of it. Then, it quickly transmitted its voice to the flame. At the same time, in Deep Pine Palace, the warriors of Divine Bird Palace seemed to have heard something. Suddenly, their bodies stiffened and their faces became extremely respectful. I need you to do something. If you succeed, you will be rewarded. The heavenly netherbbird's voice rang in the minds of the warriors of Divine Bird Palace. Honorable heavenly netherbird, please speak. One of the elders said respectfully. You should have sensed the sword chi in the Dark Pine Palace, right? It's the aura of a weapon. I want you to go to that place immediately and get that weapon. Even if you can't get it, you can't let anyone else get it. Do you understand? Understood. The elder of Divine Bird Palace said respectfully, but then he smiled bitterly. To be honest, although we are also a 6-star sect, we are still lacking compared to the other House of Kings. Even if we want to, I'm afraid we don't have the strength to do it. Don't worry about this. Since I asked you to do it, I will naturally help you. The heavenly netherbird's cold voice rang out. Now find 2 suitable people. I will help those 2 reach the 8th heaven of Venerable Realm in a short period of time. This way, I'm afraid there won't be any problems. 8th heaven of Venerable Realm. 2 people. Hearing this, the people of Divine Bird Palace felt a chill. Then, their eyes lit up. Although it was only a temporary increase in cultivation, the benefits were undoubtedly huge. For a moment, everyone's heart was burning. The elder was also stunned for a moment. Then, he was ecstatic. However, he knew that this matter was of great importance. If it was not handled well, they might not be able to leave this place. Therefore, he began to carefully think about it. In terms of strength, this elder was undoubtedly the strongest. Therefore, he was determined to get one of the spots. However, he thought carefully about the other person. In the end, he did not choose from the older generation. Instead, he chose the most talented person among the younger generation. Sir, I've chosen. The 7th elder of the Divine Bird Palace stepped forward and stood in a conspicuous position. Beside him, there was a handsome young man. At this moment, the young man's face was filled with ecstasy. The surrounding warriors of Divine Bird Palace stood in the distance and looked at the 2 figures enviously. Chapter 1200. In the next moment, the 7th elder and the handsome Zhu Chun revealed a pained expression. This was because the black flame symbol that was originally the size of a fingernail on the back of their necks suddenly jumped. Black lines spread out from the black flames and quickly crawled all over their bodies. As the black flame covered their bodies, a terrifying aura burst out from the 2. When the black runes completely covered their bodies, their auras reached a peak. As for the cultivators in the distance, they were forced to the ground by this aura. Everyone revealed a terrified expression. 8th heaven, honorable realm! Everyone was extremely envious and terrified at the same time. They did not expect the heavenly netherbird to have such terrifying power. It could create 2 8th heaven honorables with a raise of its hand. Isn't this method a little too terrifying? As for the 7th elder and Zhu Chun, they could feel the surging power in their bodies. Then, they raised their heads and laughed wildly. The 8th heaven honorable realm was a realm that they dreamed of reaching. But now, they had reached it so easily. How could they not be overjoyed? Although it was only a temporary increase, they believed that as long as they completed the mission, with the heavenly Netherbird's heaven-defying methods, they would definitely become 8th heaven honorables. Lord, rest assured. We will complete the mission, the two said respectfully to the void. Good, I'll wait for your good news. But let me remind you, don't play any tricks. I can increase the strength of the two of you, but I can also destroy you in an instant. I hope you won't make a mistake. The heavenly Netherbird's cold voice sounded. Hearing this, the 7th elder and Zhu Chen trembled. A trace of fear appeared in their eyes. The two hurriedly shook their heads to show that they would not betray it. Luckily, the heavenly Netherbird's voice did not sound and they were not in any danger. They knew that the heavenly Netherbird believed them for now. Next, they would go all out to snatch the peerless weapon. The two of us will take care of the treasure. You stay here and look for other treasures, the 7th elder said to the other cultivators. Indeed, when the time came to snatch the treasure, it would definitely be the top experts. The rest of them would not be of any use and might even become a burden. Therefore, the 7th elder did not let them go. After saying this, the two of them turned around and soared into the sky. The Pine Palace was huge. It was not inferior to a huge city. At this moment, in the southeast corner of Pine Palace, there was a cave. This cave was extremely extraordinary. It exuded an aura of vicissitudes, and there was also a faint trace of sharpness left behind. Because not long ago, the sharp sword chi had been emitted from this cave. At this moment, there was a group of warriors standing in front of the cave. The person in the lead was an old man in plain clothes. Although this old man was dressed plainly and looked ordinary, no one dared to look down on him because he was the famous senior sword venerable of the deity Sword Villa. At this moment, the linen-clothed old man was standing in front of the cave with a grave expression. Honorable Sword Elder, what is this place? Why is there such a terrifying aura? Behind him, the disciples of deity Sword Manor were confused. If my guess is correct, this should be a place for refining weapons. The plain-clothed old man looked at the cave in front of him and said in a deep voice. Indeed, this cave not only had a sharp and ancient aura, but also a scorching heat wave faintly emitted from within the cave. The heat wave was nothing at first, but if one stood in front of the cave for too long, even a venerable one would not be able to withstand it. A place for refining weapons? The eyes of the warriors behind him lit up when they heard this. So, there should be many ancient weapons inside? That's right. The old man in plain clothes nodded. Moreover, the sharp sword chi was emitted from this place. To be able to emit that sword chi, it was definitely a peerless divine weapon. Speaking of this, the old man in plain clothes' eyes were filled with passion. Although he was very old and had reached the end of his life, as a swordsman, his pursuit of treasured swords was endless. Therefore, no matter what, he wanted to go in and take a look at the peerless divine sword. The old man in plain clothes revealed a yearning expression. However, in the next moment, he frowned and suddenly turned his head. The sharp gaze in his eyes turned into a substantial sword chi and slashed forward. Which scoundrel is sneaking around? His voice was like thunder, and as his voice fell, the aura of the old man in plain clothes suddenly changed. An unusually sharp and powerful aura erupted from his body. At this moment, he no longer looked like an ordinary old man. He was clearly a peerless swordsman. The huge sword chi slashed towards the void in front of him. Although everyone was puzzled and did not see who it was, they believed that as long as the sword honorable took action, he must have his reasons. Sure enough, in the next moment, in the void, two figures suddenly flashed and flew into the distance. These two people were the 7th elder and Zhu Chen of the divine bird attack. Their expressions were very ugly. They used their extreme movement techniques and quickly ran into the distance. Damn it, this old man is so powerful! We have already restrained our auras, but I didn't expect him to still discover us. The 7th elder gritted his teeth. On the side, Zhu Chen's expression was also solemn. This is the sword honorable of the deity Sword Villa. He's really terrifying. Indeed, although their cultivation had increased to the 8th heaven of the venerable realm, they still felt a chill down their spines when facing the sword honorable. Dodging the sword by a hair's breadth, the two of them fled to a safe place and quickly discussed the matter. "Elder, what should we do?" Shuchen asked. "Don't worry. Look at the cave, it seems to be protected by a powerful formation. I'm afraid it won't be easy to break that formation. Why don't we wait until those people break the formation and then secretly follow them in? This way, we can preserve our strength and make a move at the critical moment," the seventh elder said in a deep voice. Then the two of them hid, but they were still paying close attention to the information in the cave. On the other side, the linen-clothed old man slashed out with his sword. When he saw the two figures running away, he frowned. Naturally, he could sense that the two figures who were running away were eighth heaven of the venerable realm. When did the eighth heaven of the deity sword villa come in? The linen-clothed old man was very confused. However, he shook his head slightly because he couldn't figure it out. However, he was not afraid. With the strength that the other party had shown before, it was not enough to fight against him. What he needed to do now was to enter the cave in front and obtain the exceptional divine weapon. In the next moment, the linen-clothed old man took a deep breath and walked forward. When he was about 10 feet away from the cave, he was suddenly greeted by a fiery red wave of air. Along with it was a scorching aura that melted the entire void. The aura was so violent that even a seventh heaven of the venerable realm would find it difficult to resist it. Chapter 12:01. Not only that, but a red light screen had also appeared in front of them, blocking their path. As expected, such a treasure vault must be protected by a powerful formation. The plain-clothed old man sighed and retracted his footsteps. Although he did not continue forward, the old man's eyes were very determined. It seemed that he was determined to obtain the divine weapon inside. That was because he had his own ideas. One had to know that they weren't safe right now. There was still a powerful heavenly netherbird waiting for them outside. They did not have the strength to fight against it. However, if he could obtain the divine weapon, he might be able to pose a threat to the heavenly netherbird. By then, they would have the right to negotiate. At the very least, they should be able to protect the people of Deity Sword Manor. Therefore, he had to get his hands on this peerless divine weapon. However, the first step was to break the red array in front of them. The old man did not do that. He did not ask the people of Deity Sword Manor to break the array either. Instead, he waited quietly. That was because he knew that the sword light from before must have alerted everyone in Pine Palace. Therefore, it would not be long before those powerful families and forces arrived. Therefore, he did not need to worry about the array in front of them. Indeed, before long, there was the sound of something breaking through the air. Then, a group of cultivators landed quickly. The aura of the divine weapon. "It's really here!" A joyful voice was heard. Then, there was a surprised voice. "Deity Sword Manor? So it's seen your sword honorable." The people of Deity Sword Manor turned around and realized that the people who landed behind them were from Palace of Gods of War. The old man also turned around and looked behind. Then, he was surprised. He did not expect that Palace of Gods of War would have 2 8th-level honorables. The 2 8th-level honorables were naturally Yen Feng and the mysterious honorable. Previously, Palace of Gods of War had obtained some silver leaves and fire phoenix fruits. Many people's cultivation had improved greatly. Among them, the ones who had benefited the most were Yen Feng and the mysterious honorable Duan Tianxing. Yen Feng was a prodigy of the younger generation. He was extremely talented, so he had broken through to 8th-level honorable at a young age. The mysterious honorable Duan Tianxing had an even more extraordinary background. He was Duan Tianlang's senior brother, and a powerful elder of Palace of Gods of War. This time around, his strength had increased tremendously. Compared to Yen Feng, he was now slightly stronger. The appearance of the Palace of Ares alerted the Deity Sword Manor. Now was a special time. There was a treasure trove of peerless divine weapons in front of them. The other party's intentions were obvious. Moreover, the 2 8th-level venerables made the people of Deity Sword Villa feel a wave of pressure. Originally, the strength of the deity sword villa had been slightly weaker than the house of kings like the Ares palace. However, the arrival of the honorable swordsman had greatly boosted their confidence. They believed that they could suppress the house of kings. This was because, according to the information they had obtained, no 8th level venerables had entered this time. However, they did not expect that 2 8th level venerables would appear in the Palace of War. This surprised them greatly. Previously, the advantage that they had gained by relying on Senior Sword Sovereign would probably be pulled closer to them. However, the linen-clothed old man was very calm. He did not take these 2 8th Heaven Supremacy Realm martial artists to heart. However, he was old after all. If he could avoid fighting, he would try his best not to. Therefore, he did not say anything in the face of the powerful Ares palace. Duan Tianqing, Yen Feng, and the others were different from the people of Deity Sword Villa. They rushed forward as soon as they arrived to study the red array formation. Before long, the martial artists of the other forces also arrived one after another. At this moment, the linen-clothed old man finally spoke. "Everyone, I know that everyone is anxious. However, if we don't break this array formation, I'm afraid that no one will be able to enter. Therefore, I hope that everyone will work together. Senior Honorable Swordsman, you are right. You have the highest seniority here. Why don't we leave this matter to you?" An elder of Marywood said with a smile. The elders of the other forces nodded in agreement. The people of the Ares Palace did not show any obvious support. However, they did not show any objection either. The linen-clothed old man nodded. Then, he walked forward and led everyone to study the array formation. During this process, the Shin family and the Ares Palace were extremely jealous. They almost started fighting again. Fortunately, the Honorable Swordsman was there to suppress the situation. Both sides stopped fighting. Swoosh! In the forest, 2 figures flashed. It was Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. The 2 of them naturally rushed to the cave in front of them. However, they did not go up to break the array formation. Instead, they waited quietly from afar. It was not that they did not want to go up. However, most of the forces had a grudge against them. If they went up now, it would cause unnecessary trouble. It was better to wait for them to break the array formation before they followed in. Looking at this array formation, I'm afraid that they will need some time to break it. The Crimson Dragon looked forward and said, "Of course, if Ben Wang helps, he can shorten the time by half. This should be the twin blazing array. It is indeed difficult to break." Lin Xian looked forward and said slowly, "Not bad, kid. You have improved. You can see through this array formation at a glance." The Crimson Dragon nodded continuously. Lin Xian smiled. It would be a waste if he did not learn some array formations from the Crimson Dragon, an array master. Now, his array formation level could be considered as an array formation grandmaster. As long as it wasn't an ancient array formation, he could break any ordinary array formation. As they were talking, Lin Xian suddenly frowned and looked into the distance. Zhao Shui also had a puzzled look. Then, the 2 of them quickly retracted their auras. Zhao Shui even activated her virtual sky eyes to form a golden vortex that enveloped the 2 of them. They naturally did this for a reason. Because just northwest of them, 2 figures suddenly appeared quickly. The 2 figures were like ghosts. They moved very quickly and did not make any sound. Even their auras were almost undetectable. As soon as they landed, they stared at every movement in front of them. However, they did not notice that there were 2 people hiding not far from them. When Lin Xian and Zhao Shui saw the 2 figures, they were shocked. Divine Bird Palace, 8th Heaven Venerables. Lin Xian frowned. He was not surprised that people from the Divine Bird technique appeared here, but the aura of the other party shocked him. He did not expect that the other party would have 2 8th Heaven Venerables. This was too unexpected. Did the other party also get the Silver Leaf and the Fire Phoenix fruit? Lin Xian was puzzled. But then, he shook his head slightly. With the strength of the Divine Bird Palace, they should not be able to defeat the Tree Demon. Moreover, although the other party's aura was strong, it was extremely strange. There was even an aura that he was familiar with. This is the aura of the heavenly netherbird. The crimson dragon looked solemn. Chapter 1202. The heavenly netherbird? Lin Xian suddenly realized that the aura on the other party's body was very similar to the aura of the black flames he had collected on the way here. At first, he didn't think of it, but after the crimson dragon's reminder, he realized that something was wrong. Why does the other party have such a strong aura of black flames? This isn't normal. Lin Xian was puzzled. One had to know that even if the other party had a black flame mark in his body, it was impossible for that trace of black flames to have such an aura. It seems that the heavenly netherbird is behind this, the crimson dragon said. With that guy's methods, it shouldn't be difficult for him to raise 2 people to the 8th heaven of the supremacy realm in a short period of time. Hearing this, Lin Xian gasped. As expected of the heavenly netherbird, it was indeed terrifying. It could create 2 8th heaven supremacies with a raise of its hand. This method was truly heaven-defying. However, this also made him very puzzled. He guessed that the heavenly netherbird had sent 2 8th heaven supremacies to seize the peerless weapon in the cave. The other party was a demonic beast and had no use for the weapon. It should be that the weapon was a threat to him. Thinking of this, Lin Xian's eyes lit up. If he could obtain that peerless weapon, it might increase their chances of winning. Thinking of this, Lin Xian clenched his fists. He had to obtain the peerless weapon inside. The next step was to wait patiently. 2 days later, the fiery red formation in front of them finally dimmed and disappeared. Everyone's face was filled with ecstasy as they quickly dashed inside. However, a few screams came from the front. Many of them quickly retreated, their faces full of pain. Some of them were on fire and were burning fiercely. A few powerhouses took action to extinguish the fire. Then, they looked forward with very serious expressions. Previously, because of the red formation, although they felt a scorching aura, they didn't pay much attention to it. But now, the red array formation was gone, and the scorching aura of the bones was completely exposed in front of them. The energy caused their expressions to change. It was too terrifying. It was as if an endless sea of fire was going to burn them. The few martial artists who had screamed earlier were burned by this heat wave. However, despite the danger ahead, no one retreated. Instead, they quickly made preparations. Even if it was a mountain of swords or a sea of flames, these people would still step in without hesitation, let alone a heat wave. Sure enough, the group was well prepared and set off. The plain-clothed old man took the lead and a dazzling sword radiance gushed out from his body. Then, his body swayed and he charged forward like a beam of sword radiance. Wherever it passed, the fiery red airwaves were mercilessly torn apart and slapped to both sides. Behind him were Yan Feng and Duan Tianxing, 2 8th level venerables. Their auras were extremely powerful. They were like ferocious beasts, pushing away all the heat waves. Behind the 2 of them were the elders of the major forces. These people also used all their means and quickly rushed forward. It's about time. Let's go! In the forest, the 7th elder and Zhu Qin moved out. They were like ghosts and were extremely fast. In an instant they disappeared from their original positions. After the 2 of them left, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui also revealed themselves. Let's go too. Let's see what kind of peerless divine weapon is inside. Lin Xian looked forward, his eyes shining. He stomped his foot and shot forward like an arrow. When he was near the cave entrance, the red lotus armor on his body quickly covered his entire body. On the armor, a bright red lotus flower bloomed, pushing away all the heat waves that came with it. Zhao Shui followed closely behind. Countless golden vortexes appeared around him, absorbing the surrounding heat. The 2 of them were very fast. Soon they entered the cave. There was another world inside the cave. It was bigger than expected. The crimson ground was cracked into pieces. Occasionally, flames would shoot out from these cracks. These flames were not to be underestimated. They could even easily tear apart a venerable's protective shield. No one doubted this. Not only was the ground fiery red, but the entire mountain walls were also fiery red. It was like a furnace of heaven and earth, emitting a scorching aura. As they walked forward, black iron chains appeared on the crimson walls. Each of them was as thick as a bucket. These iron chains intertwined with each other, as if they were binding something. Everyone looked ahead and sucked in a breath of cold air. This was because there was an extremely huge furnace in front of them. It was bound by countless black iron chains and suspended in midair. The furnace was very simple and unadorned. At first glance, one could tell that it was an ancient object. Moreover, its position was very strange. The mouth of the furnace was facing downward. Endless red lava flowed down from the mouth of the furnace like a fiery waterfall. This remote sky mystery realm had existed for at least a few thousand years. This cave must have existed all along. After a few thousand years, the fiery lava had not dried up. It was very strange. Lin Xian was also very surprised. However, he quickly figured out what was going on. He discovered that there were mysterious runes on the huge furnace, which were emitting a strange power. Perhaps the reason why the fiery waterfall could last for thousands of years was related to the mysterious patterns on the furnace. However, this was not something he needed to consider. He shifted his gaze away from the huge furnace and looked at the ground in front of him. Then, Lin Xian's body shook. Endless light burst out from his eyes. There was an empty space in front of him. Countless swords were stuck in the ground. At a glance, they were densely packed like stone tablets. There were at least 1,000 of them. These long swords were of different sizes and shapes. Some were as bright as the sun, emitting a blazing light from all over. There were also some that were rusty, like rusty iron swords that were casually inserted into the ground. Looking at this scene, not only was Lin Xian stunned, but everyone else was as well. They did not expect that there would be over 1,000 swords here. That's right. This should be a place to refine weapons. Moreover, the owner of this place should be a master swordsmith. Otherwise, why would all the auras be from long swords? We're rich. We're really rich this time. These are all ancient artifacts. Their power is definitely beyond imagination. The group of people ran forward crazily. However, Lin Xian did not move. He felt that the situation was too strange. Moreover, his main target was the peerless divine weapon. Not only did Lin Xian not move, but the old man in plain clothes did not move either. However, the old man's eyes were like lightning. He quickly scanned the entire space as if he was looking for the peerless divine weapon. At this moment, many of the warriors who ran out previously pulled out their swords from the ground. A few of them managed to snatch the dazzling sword, and they immediately looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. Ha 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 ha, peerless divine weapon! I got the peerless divine weapon! Hearing this, a disciple of the deity sword Villa snorted and quickly took action. Chapter 1203. A sword chi that was like a crescent moon slashed down from the sky. The warrior holding the resplendent sword also snorted coldly, and quickly waved the sword in his hand. The long sword bloomed like the sun, emitting an incomparably resplendent light. However, when it collided with the crescent moon sword chi, it let out a cracking sound and broke into two. What? How is this possible? This is impossible. I obtained a peerless divine weapon. How could it be broken? The warrior held the broken sword with a disappointed expression. However, an elder from deity sword Villa snorted coldly. How foolish! Whether it is a divine weapon or not, it is not just determined by its light. How can it be so easy to find a peerless divine weapon? Deity sword Villa could be said to be the most outstanding sect in the Tianwu continent in terms of sword techniques. Therefore, the elder's words caused everyone to ponder. It seemed that the dazzling light was not necessarily a divine weapon. Instead, it was possible that the rusty sword was the true peerless treasure sword. For a time, many warriors specially chose those long swords that looked like scrap metal. Buzz! A warrior pulled out a rusty iron sword and waved it in the air. Under normal circumstances, these warriors wouldn't even look at it because the sword was too ordinary. But now, with their previous experience, They specially chose this kind of iron sword. However, to everyone's disappointment, the rusty sword directly turned into fragments in the air and scattered all over the ground. Seeing this, even the people from Deity Sword Villa frowned. It seemed that the treasured swords here could not be distinguished by appearance. It did not mean that sparkling swords were bad, and rusty swords were not good. In other words, any sword could be a peerless divine weapon. Thinking of this, the warriors planned to start a carpet search. If one time was not enough, they would search twice. He did not believe that when they pulled out all the swords, they would still not be able to find the peerless divine weapon. However, in the next moment, many warriors in front of them cried out in alarm. This was because they realized that each person could only pull out one sword. Once the warriors who had pulled out the sword wanted to pull out another sword, they would be repelled by a strange force. Damn it, I don't believe it! Why can't I take the second one? Some martial artists refused to believe it. They exerted their strength and tried to pull out a second sword. However, a burst of sword chi shot out from the sword and split the warrior in half. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. Then, they let out a breath of cold air. They were shocked, too shocked. They didn't expect such a change to happen to the swords. Although the one who had just died was only a sixth heaven venerate, this scene still shocked everyone. They would never forget that this was a cave left behind by an ancient expert. Who knew what terrifying things would be inside? So for a time, everyone became extremely careful as they were deeply afraid that they would trigger some formation taboo and cause unnecessary danger. Instead, it was those people who had hurriedly pulled out their treasured swords that were filled with regret. Previously, they didn't think that each person could only choose once, so they didn't care when they made their choice. But now, they didn't have the chance to choose a second time. It seems like everyone can only choose once. If we follow the rules, there shouldn't be any danger. The people from Deity Sword Villa observed for a while and discovered the principle behind it. All right, all of you can go and choose your own treasured swords, the old man in plain clothes said slowly. Hearing this, the disciples of Deity Sword Villa were overjoyed. They quickly walked forward and carefully chose their swords. They were all swordsmen, so their pursuit of treasured swords was much stronger than other martial artists. They didn't act rashly before, so they avoided the incident just now. Now, they could finally choose properly. However, when Deity Sword Villa's Xiao Fan walked forward, something happened. Because before he could make his choice, a long sword on the ground began to tremble. Then, it exploded with a dazzling light. Finally, the long sword rose from the ground and flew toward Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan's heart skipped a beat. He stretched out his hand and quickly grabbed the long sword. Then, the long sword let out a sonorous sword cry as if it was very excited. What's going on? Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. This was because nothing like this had ever happened before. On the other hand, the elders of Deity Sword Villa were excited. The treasured sword chooses its master. This is the treasured sword choosing its master. Rumor has it that some high-grade treasured swords have spirituality. They can choose their own masters. I always thought it was a legend. I didn't expect to see it today. Xiao Fan, look at that treasured sword. Hearing the elder's words, Xiao Fan was also excited. Then, he poured spiritual energy into the long sword in his hand. Suddenly, the sword she let out a sonorous cry. A fiery red sword light swept across the entire void. Everywhere it passed, it seemed like a raging fire was burning. Finally, the red light in the sky dispersed, and the long sword revealed its true appearance. It was a fiery red long sword. There were patterns on it that looked like a Buddhist imprint. It emitted a scorching aura. On the hilt of the sword, there were two ancient words, Distant Fire. Distant Fire sword, a half-earth rank treasure. Moreover, it was a treasure forged by an ancient expert. Its power was unimaginable. After knowing this, the surrounding martial artists were envious. That was a half-earth rank treasure. It was extremely precious. Only the genius disciples of the House of Kings or some elders could have it. Ordinary martial artists could not have it at all. Moreover, the distant fire sword was not an ordinary half-earth rank treasure. It was a treasure forged by an ancient expert. Its power was stronger than an ordinary earth rank treasure. ****. Why don't I have such luck? No wonder he is called the Junior Sword Honorable. He is indeed powerful. The group was envious. On the other hand, the elders of Deity Sword Villa laughed heartily. Even the Sword Honorable nodded slightly. It was good that the treasured sword chose its master. At the side, Lin Xian was also surprised. He did not expect the treasured sword to have such spirituality. It could even choose its master. He wondered what would happen if he went up. Would he attract the peerless divine sword? He was very curious but did not act rashly. Firstly, he wanted to observe a little more. Secondly, the Sword Honorable and the few 8th level honorables had not made a move yet. He was not in a hurry. Lin Xian was not in a hurry, but it did not mean that the others were not. Especially the young geniuses of the various forces. They all went down and were ready to show their skills. Buzz! The 13th young master of the Shen family went down and caused a commotion. Another treasured sword chose its master. He obtained a golden treasured sword. Although it was also a half-earth rank treasure sword, in terms of power, it was weaker than the distant fire sword. Chapter 1204. In fact, this was normal because he wasn't a pure swordsman. As a disciple from the Deity Sword Villa, Xiao Fan's attainments in the way of the sword far surpassed other martial artists. Therefore, he could obtain a treasure sword like the departing flame sword. As for the few genius disciples from the House of Kings, although they could also cause a commotion, they didn't obtain a peerless divine sword. Those ordinary disciples couldn't trigger the treasured swords to choose their masters. They could only rely on luck. Many people made their moves and obtained some treasures. At that moment, Yan Feng made his move. Yan Feng's move attracted everyone's attention. After all, he was an 8th heaven honorable. Everyone wanted to know what kind of divine weapon an expert of this level would obtain. For a moment, everyone's eyes were looking forward with great anticipation. Yan Feng's face was full of arrogance as he walked forward with majestic steps. Then, he stood in the middle of the field with his hands behind his back. His body emitted a powerful aura. Obviously, Yan Feng didn't plan to carefully choose the treasured swords. Instead, he waited quietly. It seemed like he wanted the treasured swords to choose their masters automatically. Indeed, in the next moment, the sound of swords clanging could be heard. However, the crowd was shocked. They realized that there wasn't only one treasure sword clanging. 2 treasured swords exploded with dazzling light. They were like resplendent suns that shone in all directions. Then, the 2 treasured swords turned into streaks of light that flew toward Yan Feng. Seeing this scene, everyone was incomparably shocked. Even Xiao Fan was extremely shocked. He didn't expect Yan Feng to be so powerful that he could make 2 treasured swords recognize him as their master. Was this the strength of an 8th heaven honorable? He was too powerful. When Yan Feng saw this, the corners of his mouth curled up. He revealed a confident smile. Then, he reached out and grabbed one of the treasured swords. The moment he grabbed it, the light of the other sword quickly dimmed and returned to the ground. Seeing this, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Yan Feng didn't get both treasured swords. On the other hand, the people from the Deity Sword Villa frowned. They knew the pros and cons of this. Ordinary martial artists would choose a treasure sword from thousands of long swords. It was very likely that they would choose a trash sword. However, Yan Feng had to choose between 2 treasured swords. No matter which one he chose, it would definitely be a treasure sword. It wouldn't be an ordinary sword. As expected of an 8th level venerated realm cultivator, to actually receive such treatment. Seeing that Yan Feng had succeeded, everyone had different expressions. The 9th young master and the 13th young master of the Shen family looked unkind. This was because they realized that the sword in Yan Feng's hand was of a much higher grade than the ones in their hands. It even surpassed the leaf fire sword in Xiao Fan's hand. In the distance, Lin Xian also nodded slightly. It seemed that even if one was not a swordsman, when one's strength reached a certain level, these treasured swords would automatically choose their masters. Just like Yan Feng now. The grade of the treasured sword in his opponent's hand had already surpassed the distant fire sword. Even amongst the half-earth step treasures, it was still extremely good. However, compared to his Lone Star sword, it was still slightly inferior. That was because his Lone Star sword contained a trace of an Earth-rank artifact fragment. As long as it was related to an Earth-step treasure, its power would be unimaginable. Even if it was just a fragment, it would still far surpass a half-Earth step treasure of the same price. Therefore, Lin Xian's target was not the ordinary half-Earth step artifacts in front of him, but the true peerless divine weapon. After Yan Feng succeeded, the people from the Palace of Gods of War cheered. However, Duan Tianxing did not make a move. Instead, he looked towards the deity sword manor. To be exact, he was staring at the plain-clothed old man. It seemed that he was waiting for the old man to make a move. In fact, it was not only him. Everyone around was waiting because the plain-clothed old man was a legendary existence. He was the honorable sword of a generation. These people wanted to know what kind of phenomenon would occur if the honorable sword made a move. Would they be able to find the true peerless divine weapon? Feeling everyone's gaze, the plain-clothed old man's face was calm. Then, he calmly walked forward. He's making a move! He's really making a move! Everyone was extremely excited because they could finally witness the power of the legendary honorable sword. Seeing the honorable sword make a move, Yan Feng and Duan Tianxing also held their breaths. Especially Duan Tianxing, whose eyes were blazing. Not only him, but the seventh elder and Zhu Chun of the Divine Bird Palace were also extremely nervous. They believed that as long as the honorable sword made a move, he would definitely be able to attract the peerless divine weapon. Then, it would be time for them to make a move. Of course, it would be even better if the honorable sword could not find the peerless divine weapon. In that case, no one would be able to find the true peerless divine weapon, and they would be able to complete the Heavenly Netherbird's mission without having to make a move. On the side, Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. If there was someone who posed the greatest threat to him here, it would naturally be the plain-clothed old man. After all, the old man was once the famous honorable sword. Although his vitality had withered, he was still not someone an ordinary eighth heaven honorable could contend against. Moreover, the old man was an expert in the way of the sword. His attainments in the way of the sword were extraordinary. Perhaps he could really find the peerless divine weapon. Thinking of this, Lin Xian took a deep breath. If the situation changed, he had to make a move. "Ha, honorable sword, you don't mind if I search with you, right?" At this moment, Duan Tianxing of the Palace of Gods of War suddenly spoke. Then, his godlike body quickly stepped forward and walked forward. In an instant, he arrived at the place where the sword was hidden. At this moment, the honorable sword's voice slowly drifted over. "As you wish." Clearly, he did not take Duan Tianxing to heart. "In that case, I won't hold back." Then, Duan Tianxing stepped forward, and his aura suddenly erupted. Like a storm, it instantly filled the entire space. Its power was even stronger than Yan Feng's. Following his arrival, the long swords in front of him also began to hum non-stop. In fact, many of the long swords even burst out with resplendent light. 5 swords, a total of 5 swords shot into the sky and rapidly flew towards Duan Tianxing. Seeing this scene, everyone exclaimed, their eyes filled with astonishment. One had to know that Yan Feng had only been able to attract 2 swords previously. That was already enviable. But now, Duan Tianxing had actually attracted 5 swords directly. This was truly shocking. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes and looked forward. Indeed, Duan Tianxing was much stronger than Yan Feng. It was reasonable for him to be able to attract 5 swords. Duan Tianxing stood with his hands behind his back. He had no intention of making a move. He allowed the 5 swords to turn into shocking rainbows and dance around him. His gaze was like a sharp sword as he looked behind him. There was an old figure there, but no one dared to underestimate him. The linen-clothed old man did not have any reaction to Duan Tianqing being able to attract 5 swords. His old face remained calm. Then, he slowly arrived at the place where the sword was hidden. The moment he stepped on the ground, the surrounding swords suddenly emitted a dazzling light. Dozens of long swords shot into the sky like lightning and instantly arrived beside the old man. Chapter 1205. The number was not something Duan Tianqing could compare to. The 10 swords turned into a long rainbow and danced around the old man, emitting a blazing light. This scene caused everyone to widen their eyes in shock. Even Duan Tianqing's pupils constricted, and his face was full of shock. His previous actions were naturally provocative. In his opinion, although the sword venerable was famous, he had already declined and could no longer display the power he had in the past. That was why he wanted to provoke him. However, he did not expect that the sword venerable would still be so powerful even though his blood chi had withered. With just a step, he attracted 10 swords to surround him. There were twice as many swords as he was. This made him extremely shocked. One had to know that he had used all his strength to attract 1 sword, but the sword venerable had attracted 10 swords just by walking casually. The gap between them could be said to be abnormally huge. The 10 swords circled around the sword venerable like flowing light. The sword venerable only glanced at them casually, then shook his head slightly. The next moment, he waved his hand, and a majestic force surged out, pushing the 10 swords away. Buzz! 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 The 10 swords flew out and returned to the ground. What? He pushed them away! Seeing this scene, everyone was extremely shocked. Those were 10 swords. If it were any other cultivator, they would definitely choose carefully. However, the sword venerable had casually pushed them away and did not choose a single one. It had to be said that he was too bold. In this world, only the sword venerable could do that. At the side, Duan Tianqing's face darkened. He originally wanted to provoke the sword venerable, but he did not expect the sword venerable to suppress him in terms of numbers. However, the sword venerable's actions directly provoked him. The 10 swords glanced at each other and were pushed away. This made him extremely shocked and infuriated at the same time. Then, he snorted coldly and pushed away the 5 swords beside him. Seeing this action, the surrounding people also exclaimed. However, Lin Xian shook his head slightly. With Duan Tianqing's strength and attainments in the sword Dao, wanting to compete with the sword venerable was undoubtedly like throwing an egg against a rock. The sword venerable was even more expressionless. He did not even look at Duan Tianqing. Once again, he walked past the countless swords. Then, countless swords soared into the sky and flew towards him like rainbows. This time, there were even more of them. There were 20 of them. However, the sword venerable only glanced at it before shaking his head and pushing it away again. Next, 30 swords soared into the sky before being pushed away again. Duan Tianqing originally wanted to compete with Sword Sovereign, but when he saw this scene, he was immediately stunned. This kind of method was simply not something that he could use. In front of them, as the Sword Sovereign's aura grew stronger, the number of treasured swords in the sky also increased. All of a sudden, a sword emitted a shocking light. That light was very special. It suppressed the other sword lights and even emitted an unusually sharp aura. Seeing this sword light, everyone looked over with rapt attention. They were very excited. Could it be that a peerless divine weapon has appeared? It seems very likely. As expected of the honorable sword. I'm afraid only he has the means to make the peerless divine weapon appear. Everyone was shocked. On the other hand, the people from Deity Sword Villa were ecstatic. Duan Tianqing's face was gloomy. He looked ahead and roared, unleashing an unparalleled power. His power swept towards the shocking sword light, trying to snatch it from the Sword Sovereign. However, when his power was swept into the sword light, it was as if it had fallen into the sea. There was no wind at all. Damn it! Duan Tianqing was extremely angry. He also knew that he was no match for the Sword Sovereign. However, he was unwilling to let the divine weapon fall into the hands of the deity sword Villa, so he could only fight for it with all his might. The sword sovereign did not stop Duan Tianqing because the other party did not attack directly. Instead, he used his aura to attract the sword. This did not violate any rules. Therefore, the sword sovereign could not be bothered with him because he was confident that no one here was a match for him in terms of sword principle. They were not even qualified for him to take them seriously. In front of them, the sword light became brighter and brighter, as if it was going to break through the sky. The sword sovereign's eyes were also extremely bright, as if he wanted to see if the sword was a peerless divine weapon. In the distance, Lin Xian looked at this scene with a grave expression. Although he was not sure if the sword light was from a peerless divine weapon, he knew that he could not wait any longer. In the next moment, Lin Xian made his move. His figure was like a phantom as he shuttled through the crowd and arrived at the place where the sword was hidden in an instant. When he stepped onto the ground, he immediately activated the great dragon sword soul. A deep dragon roar sounded from within his body. Then, an unforgettable scene appeared. On the ground in front of him, thousands of swords were all trembling as if they were going to soar into the sky. Beams of dazzling sword light burst out and connected into one, illuminating the entire sky. Clang! Clang! Thousands of swords flew out and floated in the sky, blooming with dazzling light. Then, these swords turned into shocking rainbows and flew towards Lin Xian. For a moment, Lin Xian was like a sword immortal, attracting thousands of swords to revolve around him. What? Thousands of swords? How is this possible? Dream, I must be dreaming. *MN, who is this kid? How can he be so powerful? Everyone was stunned. They looked at the scene in front of them as if they had seen a ghost. They could not believe it. There were more than 1,000 swords in front of them. At this moment, most of them had soared into the sky and were circling around Lin Xian. There were only a few swords left on the ground. It could be said that Lin Xian's appearance had attracted almost all of the swords. This was too shocking. One should know that even a sword honorable would not be able to create such a scene. Even Zhao Shui, Murong Qingqing, and the others widened their eyes in disbelief. The others were even more shocked. The people from the deity sword villa were exclaiming. On the other hand, the people from the Aries works and the Shen family looked extremely gloomy, especially Yan Feng and Duan Tianqing. *MN, how can this guy attract thousands of swords? Yan Feng gritted his teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. Previously, he lost to Lin Xian and was very unwilling to accept it. This time, he had a breakthrough in his cultivation and thought that he could definitely defeat Lin Xian. However, he had lost to Lin Xian before they even fought. One should know that he had only attracted 2 swords previously. Now, Lin Xian had attracted thousands of swords. The gap between them was like the gap between heaven and earth. It was impossible to cross. Even the sword honorable could not remain calm. He looked at Lin Xian with astonishment in his eyes. To be honest, even if he used all his strength, he would not be able to create such a scene. Chapter 1206. The long swords here were very magical. It didn't mean that one could attract many swords just because they were powerful. It depended on fate and attainments in the sword Tao. It could be said that it was extremely mysterious. Even if a king came, he wouldn't be able to attract almost all the swords away. Because this was simply impossible. Who is this young man? How can he be so powerful? The sword venerable stared at Lin Xian carefully, his face full of doubts. He had heard of the few genius disciples of the House of Kings, but the Lin Xian in front of him was completely different from the information he knew. In other words, he wasn't from the House of Kings. This made him even more surprised. Apart from the House of Kings, could there be any other force's disciple that could be so shocking? No, even the House of Kings can't find such a person. Unique treasure, this kid must have a unique treasure in his hands to be able to cause such a phenomenon. The sword venerable's eyes flickered as he stared at Lin Xian. He couldn't help it. The scene was too shocking. He really didn't believe that a young man with the 7th level of the supremacy realm could cause such a phenomenon. Perhaps the only explanation was that he had a treasure on him. In fact, he was almost right. However, it wasn't a treasure, but a sword soul. The reason for such a shocking scene was the great dragon sword soul in Lin Xian's body. The great dragon sword soul was an offensive saint technique in the world. It was extremely powerful, and its aura could naturally attract countless swords here. Therefore, although Lin Xian's cultivation was only at the 7th level of the supremacy realm, the commotion he caused was even more terrifying than the sword venerable. Looking at the thousands of long swords around him, Lin Xian's eyes flickered. Then, he stretched out his hands and pressed down on the void. Suddenly, a majestic force surged out and pushed the thousands of swords away. Then, the long swords plunged back into the ground like a rain of swords. Bang, 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 bang! The void rumbled and the ground trembled. Countless long swords kept clanging. What? He pushed them all away. He didn't take any of them. Everyone was dumbfounded. They didn't expect Lin Xian to do that. This was truly a bold move. There were over 1,000 swords, and there were definitely powerful treasures amongst them. However, Lin Xian did not choose any of them and directly pushed them aside. This boldness was even stronger than the sword venerable. Duan Tianxing's face darkened at this sight. Damn it, this brat's target is also a peerless divine weapon. Stop him, don't let him come up. Brat, scram! As soon as Duan Tianxing left, Duan Tianlang from the Palace of Gods of War grinned maliciously and rushed towards Lin Xian. His current cultivation had already reached the peak of the 7th heaven of the Venerable Realm. It could be said that his strength had increased greatly. In the next moment, a terrifying fist smashed towards Lin Xian's head. Die, brat! A demon wolf flew out from the fist. The void trembled and was mercilessly torn apart. The demon wolf turned into a beam of light and quickly pounced towards Lin Xian. He attacked with his full strength right from the start. It seems that Duan Tianlang wants to kill him. That's for sure. Duan Tianlang suffered a loss in Lin Xian's hands previously. Now that his strength has increased greatly, he naturally wants to take revenge. Lin Xian is probably in danger. Yeah, he could create such a phenomenon previously. It shouldn't be because of his own strength. I wonder if he can withstand this punch. Everyone was in a heated discussion. Many of them looked worried. In the face of such a terrifying attack, Lin Xian snorted coldly and then slapped out. Spiritual energy rolled and countless flames jumped. They turned into a huge flaming hand and slapped forward. Boom! With one slap, the demon wolf fist dissipated. Not only that, Duan Tianlang was also sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood and crashed into the wall behind him. What? He was sent flying? Everyone widened their eyes in disbelief. That was a peak 7th heaven venerable. Lin Xian's strength was a little too terrifying to be able to send him flying with a single slap. How is this possible? Damn it, how did he do it? The people from the Palace of Gods of War were horrified. Yan Feng's face darkened. His eyes were like lightning as he stared at Lin Xian. Then, he sneered coldly. 7th heaven venerable. So you've broken through. No wonder you're stronger than before. But so what if you've broken through? You can only lie down in front of me. Yan Feng's voice was cold. Then, he took a step forward and his body exuded powerful spiritual energy. The aura of an 8th heaven venerable. Oh my god, is Yan Feng going to attack? It's possible. According to the rumors, Yan Feng was once defeated by Lin Xian. He probably wants to take revenge now. What? Yan Feng was defeated before? Are you kidding? He's a genius martial artist from the Palace of Gods of War. Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect there to be such a secret. Lin Xian is too terrifying. He can even defeat a genius martial artist like Yan Feng. So what? He was just lucky. Senior brother Yan Feng has broken through to the 8th heaven venerable. He's a peerless expert. No matter how strong that kid is, he can't beat our senior brother Yan Feng. Humph, he's dead meat. An 8th heaven venerable can crush a 7th heaven venerable. Senior brother Yan Feng can kill him with a finger. The disciples of the Palace of Gods of War sneered when they saw Yan Feng attack. In the distance, Duan Tianqing also heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he focused on finding a peerless weapon. Lin Xian said coldly, "You're not my match. Kid, you're too arrogant." Yan Feng sneered. "Although I was defeated by you before, it's different now. I've broken through to the 8th heaven venerable. Killing you is as easy as flipping my hand." However, Lin Xian shook his head. "An 8th heaven venerable isn't invincible. You've just entered the 8th heaven. I said you're not my match. So, if you don't want to die, get lost. You're the first person who dares to talk to me like this. I'll knock your teeth out one by one later. Let's see how stubborn you are then." Yan Feng held the sword he just obtained and slashed out. The sword light flashed and turned into countless light waves that charged over. It was like endless waves rushing through the void. This sword was too terrifying. It was enough to kill any 7th heaven venerable. When the surrounding people saw Yan Feng attack, they all retreated, afraid that they would be swept away by the waves. "Is this the strength of an 8th heaven venerable? Just the aura alone makes me feel despair. There's nothing I can do. The gap is too big." The further one reached the venerable realm, the greater the gap. The difference between an 8th heaven and a 7th heaven was like heaven and earth. It was impossible to fight someone of a higher level. For a moment, no one was optimistic about Lin Xian. They thought that he was dead meat this time. The terrifying sword light was incomparably vast, but it had no effect on Lin Xian. A vermilion bird seal quickly shot out from Lin Xian's hand. The fire element here was very rich, so Lin Xian used fire concept in these few moves. A flaming vermilion bird was born and shattered all the sword light. "I said you're not my match. Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish." Chapter 1207. I've said it before. You're no match for me. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish, Lin Xian said coldly. Then, he stomped his foot and charged out like a bolt of lightning. What? He blocked it. Lin Xian could actually block the attack of an 8th heaven supremacy? That was unbelievable. Everyone was dumbfounded. Although they knew that Lin Xian was powerful and mysterious, they didn't think that Lin Xian could fight against an 8th heaven supremacy. But now, he had done it. It was really shocking. Yan Feng's face turned pale. He didn't expect Lin Xian to be able to fight against him. There was a ball of anger burning in his heart. You're courting death. How dare an ant compete with the sun and moon? I'll let you know the true power of an 8th heaven supremacy. Yan Feng put away the sword in his hand and pulled out the demon's slayer at his waist. With a clang, the demon's slayer was pulled out. The long saber shone and the light was like the sea. The resplendent saber light shot into the sky and lit up the entire space. Buzz! Yan Feng held the frenzied saber and slashed out. Suddenly, the saber light emitted a buzzing sound that made one's soul tremble. The ocean blue saber light was like a wave that instantly streaked across the sky and slashed toward Lin Xian. The entire cave was shaking. 8 Ocean Abyss Saber! Yan Feng's voice was cold like the edge of a saber. His head emitted a sharp aura. The 8 Ocean Abyss Saber was an Earth-class martial art. It was very terrifying. Now that Yan Feng's cultivation had increased greatly, and reached the 8th heaven supremacy, he could be said to be extremely powerful. At that moment, he was one with the saber. The terrifying saber light seemed to be able to shatter everything as it slashed toward Lin Xian. Lin Xian stood in the field and waved his hand. Immediately, the thousands of swords around him trembled and emitted a resplendent light, forming a sea of sword light. These sword lights combined to form a huge sword chi that floated in the sky. Then, it slashed forward viciously. Boom! The two collided with a deafening sound. It was as if thunder had exploded from the 9 heavens. The entire cave kept shaking. At this moment, Mysterious red runes appeared on the ground and walls, emitting a mysterious power that protected the entire cave. Otherwise, just this move alone would have flattened the entire cave. However, those martial artists were not so lucky. That terrifying remnant energy directly impacted their bodies, sending them flying. Those with weaker strength even vomited large mouthfuls of blood, suffering serious injuries. Retreat! Countless people screamed in horror and retreated to the wall. The older generation figures and 7th-level venerables quickly worked together to form a screen of light to defend. Otherwise, many of them would probably die here in the next attack. Now, they were no longer shocked, but terrified. Especially the warriors from the palace of Ares. Their expressions were as if they had seen a ghost. Impossible! How is this possible? How can he contend against an 8th-level venerable? Dream, damn it, I must be dreaming! They had really gone mad. It should be known that that was an 8th heaven venerable. In the eyes of the world, he was already a peerless expert. Moreover, there was a huge gap between a 7th-level venerable realm and an 8th-level venerable realm. It could be said that there was no suspense in this battle. But now, the result was completely out of their expectations. Lin Xian blocked Yan Feng's attack. Not only that, but it seemed that they were evenly matched. Yan Feng's expression was even more frightening. If the first attack could be said to be blocked by luck, then the previous scene was definitely not luck. He could now confirm that Lin Xian definitely had the battle prowess of an 8th heaven venerable. Damn it, how did this brat do it? Yan Feng's expression was extremely ugly. I don't believe it. This brat must have used some secret technique to forcefully increase his battle prowess. Yes, it must be so. Otherwise, how could he possibly contend against me? Yan Feng seemed to have grasped something. Then, he revealed a cold smile. Brat, I didn't expect you to have such a secret technique. But it's a pity. I think this secret technique won't last for too long. Since that's the case, I'll play with you. When the secret technique ends, I'll let you know how powerful I am. Yan Feng's words calmed the hearts of the palace of Ares' disciples. So it was a secret technique. No wonder he could contend against an 8th-level venerable. Humph, what a crooked method. The secret technique can temporarily increase one's battle prowess, but the side effects are definitely huge. Furthermore, this secret technique definitely won't last for too long. Just wait. Once the secret technique ends, he'll be dead for sure. Faced with these words, Lin Xian only said 2 words. Ignorant. He did indeed have a secret technique that could increase his battle prowess. However, he didn't use any secret technique at all. This was his true battle prowess. However, he didn't have time to waste here with Yan Feng. His goal was the peerless divine weapon. With a cold snort, Lin Xian attacked again. Ha ha, brat, I guessed it right. You can't wait to attack, right? Seeing Lin Xian's actions seemed to confirm his guess, Yan Feng laughed maniacally. A guy who used a secret technique to increase his strength wants to compete with me? What a joke! Yan Feng laughed maniacally as he waved the berserk blade in his hand. Rays of blade light surged out rapidly. Then, an unparalleled power erupted from Yan Feng's body. His eyes were like 2 rays of blade light, piercing through space and time. At this moment, he seemed to have merged with the berserk blade in his hand, erupting with a powerful battle prowess. Lin Xian pulled out the Lone Star sword with a backhand. Boundless sword light rushed out from his body. At the same time, he used the illusory demon steps, leaving behind a series of afterimages in the sky. He instantly arrived in front of Yan Feng. The Lone Star sword in his hand slashed down fiercely. Dang! The two collided, creating an earth-shattering sound. A huge crack appeared in the void. Lin Xian's black hair fluttered. The great dragon sword soul continued to circulate, causing his battle prowess to be unparalleled. He fought Yan Feng, an 8th-level venerable. The surrounding people were deeply shocked by this scene. A 7th-level venerable fought an 8th-level venerable head-on. This was probably the first time in history that a 7th-level venerable was not at a disadvantage. Impossible! Go to hell! Yan Feng roared into the sky, wanting to kill Lin Xian. His black hair danced wildly. His gaze was as sharp as a blade. The long blade in his hand slashed towards Lin Xian. Every strike caused the void to collapse. On the other hand, Lin Xian was like the tip of a sword, sharp to the extreme. The long sword slashed across the sky, emitting an unparalleled light that caused the entire world to lose its color. The sword chi swept out, shattering all of Yan Feng's attacks. The sword chi was like a dragon roaring in the sky, as if it wanted to tear the world apart. It was extremely terrifying. Yan Feng's pupils shrank, and his expression changed drastically. He did not dare to face this terrifying sword chi head-on. His body quickly retreated like a ghost. However, his aura was at a disadvantage as he retreated. When he wanted to counterattack, he realized that he was being suppressed by Lin Xian. At this moment, Lin Xian's aura continued to rise. He was like an ancient demon mountain that people could only look up to. Chapter 1208. Lin Xian did not give Yan Feng a chance to counterattack. The Lone Star sword in his hand was like a dragon, roaring continuously. A terrifying killing intent swept out in all directions. Lin Xian slashed out 13 times in a row. The terrifying sword light connected in the sky like a vast ocean and blasted towards Yan Feng. The entire void was trembling, and the cave was shaking nonstop as if it would collapse at any time. Yan Feng's face was pale. He could not dodge at all and could only take the 13 swords head-on. The sound of metal clashing resounded in the air. Yan Feng's face was pale, and his entire arm was trembling. The 13 swords were like raging waves, each stronger than the last. In the end, although he took the 13 swords, his arm was completely numb, and he could not exert any strength at all. On the other hand, Lin Xian's battle intent was high, and his aura was majestic. Sword light surrounded his body, and his killing intent was monstrous. He slashed out again. Wind and thunder roared, and metal and fire mixed together. This sword was extremely sharp, and it directly sent Yan Feng's demon slayer flying. Then, the long sword swept out like a dragon swinging its tail, and sent Yan Feng flying. Blood splattered in the air, and explosions continued. Everyone was stunned. The scene in front of them was shocking. They could not believe that Yan Feng had been defeated. One had to know that Yan Feng was an 8th heaven honorable. He was a peerless expert in the eyes of the world, but he had been defeated just like that. Furthermore, he had lost to a 7th level venerate. This was simply too unbelievable. Duan Tianxing's face was also gloomy, and his entire body was trembling. He did not expect Lin Xian to be able to defeat Yan Feng. It was really beyond his expectations. Not only that, but an inexplicable fear rose in his heart. Lin Xian was someone that the Palace of Gods of War had to kill. One of his missions in the remote sky secret realm this time was to kill Lin Xian. Originally, there was no suspense to this mission because Lin Xian was only a cultivator at the 5th heavenly layer before entering the remote heaven secret realm. A person like that was like an ant in Duan Tianxing's eyes. However, in just 2 to 3 months, Lin Xian had already become a 7th heaven honorable. Not only that, his battle strength was even more powerful. He could already fight against an 8th heaven honorable. It would be very difficult to kill him now. Thinking of this, he felt fear and regret at the same time. If he had made up his mind to pursue them with all his might back then, none of this would have happened. But now, it was too late. Not only in the remote sky secret realm, but if they let him out, the situation in the Palace of Gods of War would change drastically. Therefore, the best opportunity to kill Lin Xian was in the remote heaven mystery realm. Just as he was considering whether or not to make a move, Lin Xian had already made the first move. After dealing with Yan Feng, Lin Xian turned around and returned to the place where the swords were hidden. He activated the great dragon sword spirit, causing the thousands of swords to hum. His eyes flickered as he scanned the surroundings. He wanted to find the true peerless divine weapon. For a moment, the entire space was filled with sword radiance. Sword chi soared into the sky and was extremely dazzling. The sword sovereign also snorted coldly as his eyes shone brightly. A huge sword aura surged from his body, connecting the heavens and the earth. Rays of sword light spread out in all directions like waves, quickly covering the entire sword treasury. Duan Tianqing also roared as he activated the energy in his body with all his might. 3 violent bursts of energy covered the entire space, leaving nothing behind. Finally, under the combined efforts of the 3 great powerhouses, an extremely dazzling ray of light shone from the sky sword forest. The peerless divine weapon has appeared! Seeing that ray of light, everyone exclaimed in shock. In the next moment, under everyone's gaze, that ray of light turned into a bolt of lightning and charged towards the sword sovereign. Damn it! Seeing this, Duan Tianqing roared angrily. He stretched out a huge palm of light and grabbed at the space before him. Lin Xian, on the other hand, shook his head slightly. This place was very strange. Since the hidden sword had chosen the Sword Lord, it was already destined. As expected, although Duan Tianqing's palm of light was terrifying, it was instantly torn apart by that ray of sword light. Soon, that ray of sword light arrived beside the sword sovereign. Seeing this, Duan Tianqing roared at the sky, his eyes filled with despair. Lin Xian was expressionless. This was what he had expected. However, this time, things went beyond his expectations. Because suddenly, 2 figures appeared behind him and charged towards the sword sovereign like lightning. Then, 2 terrifying palms reached out and grabbed the treasured sword in front of the sword sovereign. It's them. Lin Xian looked at the 2 figures with a surprised expression. He naturally knew these 2 figures, but he did not expect them to dare to make a move at this time. One must know. That was the sword sovereign. The 2 figures were naturally the 7th Elder and Zhu Chun of the Divine Bird Palace. The 2 of them had been ordered by the Heavenly Netherbird to obtain the peerless divine weapon. However, they did not know what the peerless divine weapon was, and the Heavenly Netherbird did not tell them. Therefore, in their opinion, the sword in the sword sovereign's hand must be a peerless divine weapon. Therefore, they made a move. When these 2 people appeared, everyone was stunned. They did not expect that someone would dare to make a move on the sword sovereign. They were really bold. However, when they sensed the aura of these 2 people, they all screamed. 8th Heaven of the Honorable Realm! 8th Heaven of the Honorable Realm! In addition to Duan Tianqing and Yan Feng of the Palace of Gods of War, there were 2 8th Heaven Honorables. This was too shocking. However, what shocked them even more was that the 2 figures were actually from the Divine Bird Palace. How is this possible? Since when did the Divine Bird Palace have 8th Heaven Honorables? Everyone was stunned. However, the sword sovereign snorted coldly. He waved his sleeve and the long sword in front of him suddenly bloomed with a blazing light. Then, a sword light quickly slashed forward. The 7th Elder and Zhu Chun of the Divine Bird Palace were hit by the sword light. They immediately retreated and cracked the void. However, balls of black flame strangely rose from their bodies, forming a defense that blocked the sword light. Therefore, they did not suffer fatal injuries. The 2 landed on the ground and stared straight ahead. You 2 stupid birds dare to come and snatch my things? The sword sovereign said with disdain. The 7th Elder gritted his teeth and looked very serious. No matter what, we will not let you take the peerless divine weapon away today. Behind them, Duan Tianqing saw this scene and was stunned for a moment. Then he laughed wildly. Good, good, good. Fellow Taoists of the Divine Bird Palace, why don't we join forces? He could not fight against the sword sovereign, and it seemed that the 2 of them could not succeed either. Therefore, he thought of joining forces. 3 8th Heaven Honorables should be able to fight against the sword sovereign. After all, no matter how strong the sword sovereign was, he was now old and did not have much qi and blood in his body. Therefore, he could not display his peak strength. Chapter 1209. All right. Hearing Duan Tianqing's suggestion, the 7 elders quickly nodded. As long as they could stop the sword venerable and obtain the peerless weapon, it didn't matter who they joined forces with. Be careful, that kid is very strange. Duan Tianxing came to the seventh elder's side and glanced in Lin Xian's direction. However, Lin Xian merely shrugged his shoulders and left the sword vault. The sword still belonged to the sword venerable, so he wouldn't do anything. Thus, he left the battle. Seeing Lin Xian leave, the sword venerable was expressionless, but Duan Tianxing and the rest secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Lin Xian's strength wasn't inferior to theirs. If they really wanted to fight, there would be a lot of trouble. Now that he had left, it couldn't be better for them. In the next moment, the three of them formed a triangle and rushed toward the sword venerable. It seems that I haven't fought for a long time, and the world has forgotten about this old man. The sword venerable said slowly. All right, I'll show you what a peerless weapon is today. With that, the sword venerable's aura became stronger and stronger. The light in his eyes was like a peerless divine sword that directly tore through the void. With a clang, as if a sword had been unsheathed, the entire sky shook. With a slash of the sword, a terrifying sword chi flew forward like a thunderbolt. As soon as the sword chi appeared, the surrounding cultivators all fell to the ground, their faces pale and their bodies trembling. With their strength, they couldn't resist the sword chi from the sword venerable. Duan Tianxing and the other two were the first to bear the brunt. Their expressions changed drastically as they sensed danger. I, the unique and righteous! Duan Tianxing roared, and his body glowed brightly, forming a very thick defense that enveloped him. At the side, the seventh elder and Zhu Qin didn't dare to be careless. They quickly circulated their spirit energy and formed a huge three-headed vermilion blood bird that covered their bodies. In the face of this terrifying sword, they had no choice but to use their strongest defense. The terrifying sword chi fell from the sky like the Milky Way, shattering the void wherever it passed. In the next moment, it ruthlessly slashed Duan Tianxing and the other two, sending them flying. The green light on Duan Tianxing's body and the shadow of the divine bird on seventh elder's body rapidly cracked under the attack of the sword aura. The three of them felt their chi and blood churning. Many parts of their bodies were cut open by the sword chi. However, the three of them were eighth heaven venerables after all. Furthermore, the three of them were very powerful when they joined forces. In the end, they successfully resisted the sword. However, they weren't happy at all because the single sword venerable had only moved his finger. He hadn't even taken out his weapon, yet he had already created such a power. This was not good news for them. Lin Xian looked at this scene with a dignified expression. As expected of a sword venerable, he was indeed terrifying. Although he didn't have much time left, he could still display such a terrifying combat strength. It was really shocking. However, Lin Xian's attention was quickly diverted. Under the perception of the dragon sword soul, Lin Xian seemed to find that something was summoning him. His gaze shifted from the battlefield in front of him to the gigantic heaven and earth smelt in the sky. That feeling seemed to be coming from the huge furnace. The huge furnace was extremely magical. Countless lava waterfalls fell from the entrance, forming a magnificent scene. The temperature was extremely terrifying. Even seventh heaven venerables didn't dare to approach it. If he guessed correctly, this should be the fire used by the peerless figures in the past to refine weapons. A fire that could refine a peerless divine weapon was definitely extraordinary. Kid, what are you looking at? The Crimson Dragon asked from the side. I feel that there's something in the furnace. Something? Hearing this, the Crimson Dragon became excited. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and get it. That fire isn't easy to deal with. Lin Xian expressed his worries. What's the problem? Don't you have 10,000 bee sting? Just absorb all the fire. Oh right, this fire is good stuff. It'll be of great help to you when you refine weapons. 10,000 bee sting? The corner of Lin Xian's mouth twitched slightly. To be honest, he would have to pay a huge price to use that thing. However, in the end, he sighed. All right. This was because he really had no other choice now. Therefore, he quickly communicated with Zero. However, to his surprise, Zero didn't make any other requests this time. This made Lin Xian sigh in relief. This was because the price of using 10,000 bee sting was too great. If he could avoid using it, he wouldn't use it. However, he didn't expect that there would be an exception this time. Soon, Lin Xian seemed to have figured it out. The fire in the furnace that day was probably also beneficial to the 10,000 bee sting. Since he had the support of 10,000 bee sting, Lin Xian didn't delay any longer. He quickly soared into the sky. His actions immediately attracted everyone's attention. What's Lin Xian doing? Why is he flying into the sky? Could it be that he wants to interfere too? That shouldn't be. That's not the direction of the battlefield. It seems that he's flying toward the huge furnace in the sky. No way, what's there to investigate about that furnace? Moreover, I'm afraid that even Seventh Heaven Venerables wouldn't dare to approach that temperature. The group of people discussed fervently. They couldn't understand. They didn't even think of the possibility of it being a peerless divine weapon. This was because they had already determined that the sword in front of sword supremacy was a peerless divine weapon. Therefore, they didn't think that there was anything in the earth furnace that could surpass a peerless divine weapon. It wasn't just the surrounding cultivators who were confused. Even Duan Tianqing and the other two were very surprised. However, they still paid special attention to Lin Xian's actions. Damn it, what's that brat up to now? Seventh Elder quickly sent a voice transmission while dodging Sword Supremacy's sword chi. Who knows? Ignore him. I've already investigated that heaven and earth furnace. Even Eighth Heaven Venerables wouldn't dare to enter it. No matter how strong that brat is, he won't be able to dodge those flames. Seventh Elder and Zhu Chun relaxed when they heard this. Thus, the three of them joined forces and quickly attacked Sword Supremacy. Under normal circumstances, the three of them wouldn't be able to defeat Sword Supremacy even if they joined forces. However, the black flames on Seventh Elder and Zhu Chen's bodies were very strange. They actually forcefully resisted Sword Supremacy's sword chi. Therefore, there was a stalemate right now. Sword Supremacy's face was also gloomy. Originally, he didn't care about the three Eighth Heaven Venerables. However, the black flames on their bodies were too strange. He had to be careful. These black flames seemed to have the aura of the heavenly Netherbird. When did these two people from the Divine Bird Palace have a connection with the heavenly Netherbird? Sword Supremacy's eyes flashed. He was very confused. The strength of the heavenly Netherbird was obvious to all. Even if Sword Supremacy was at his peak, he might not be able to contend against it, let alone now. However, the two people in front of him clearly had the flames of the heavenly Netherbird. He had to be careful. As for Lin Xian's actions, he also ignored it because he didn't feel anything from the furnace. Chapter 12:10. No one stopped him. This was undoubtedly good news for Lin Xian. He was very fast and arrived near the furnace in an instant. Then, with a flip of his palm, the 10,000 bee sting appeared in the void. With a low growl, Lin Xian injected his spiritual energy into the 1,000 beast cauldron. Soon after, the small black cauldron emitted a black glow. The birds and beasts on the cauldron swam continuously as if they were about to come to life. A powerful devouring power gushed out and surged towards the flaming furnace in front of him. Boom! Suddenly, the void trembled. Countless flames surged and spread out in the sky. They seemed to be attracted by something and gathered towards the 10,000 bee sting. What? He wants to absorb those flames? Is he crazy? It can't be. Even an 8th level supremacy would avoid those flames. No matter how strong that kid is, he can't resist those flames. Everyone was shocked and puzzled. However, Duan Tianqing and the others sneered. This kid is really digging his own grave. I was still thinking about how to deal with him, but now he's courting death. That's even better. He'll be burned to death by those flames. Then, we won't have to do anything. No one could understand Lin Xian's actions. They all thought that he was playing with fire. However, the Crimson Dragon, Zhao Shui, and Murong Qingqing were very calm because they knew Lin Xian's methods. Indeed, the terrifying flames in the sky did not burn Lin Xian. Instead, they were all absorbed by the 10,000 bee sting in his hand. Not a single one was left. In the huge furnace in the sky, the lava gradually decreased and the situation inside was gradually revealed. There were countless fragments in the furnace. They were probably all scrap metal from failed weapon refinement. However, amidst the debris, a faint green glow could be seen. Lin Xian's eyes lit up when he saw that green light. He could sense that the aura he had sensed earlier was emitted by that green light. It's not enough. Absorb more! Lin Xian continued to push the 10,000 bee sting to absorb the flames inside. The green light ahead became brighter and brighter. In the end, even the ordinary cultivators could see it. Oh my God, what is that? Green light! There's really a treasure in that furnace? How is that possible? How did that kid know? The group of people was extremely shocked. Duan Tianqing and the other two looked gloomy. They did not expect Ling Xian to be able to absorb those flames. What shocked them even more was that there were other treasures in those flames. Although he still didn't know what the treasure was, it must be something extraordinary to be able to exist in such a huge furnace. As the flames in the furnace decreased, everyone was finally able to see what the green light was. It was a long sword. Its entire body was green, like an emerald, sparkling and translucent. The green longsword stood among the thousands of pieces of scrap metal. It was like a star, shining brightly. Divine, unparalleled weapon! When Lin Xian saw the jade-green sword, these words suddenly appeared in his mind. This was because he could feel an unusually sharp aura from it. As the flames dwindled and the green light became brighter, Lin Xian was more and more certain that the Venerable's sword was not a divine weapon. And this green long sword in front of him could very well be the true peerless godly weapon. Even the Venerable had realized this. The Venerable sighed. He had already obtained a treasured sword. According to the rules of this place, he could not lay his hands on any other treasured swords. Therefore, even if the green sword was a divine weapon, he was probably not fated to have it. Duan Tianqing and the others were even more shocked. They gave up on attacking the Venerable and stared at the green sword in the sky. Divine weapon! That's the real divine weapon! Duan Tianqing roared excitedly. The seventh elder and Zhu Chen's faces darkened. They had been busy fighting the Venerable for half a day, only to discover that the sword in their opponent's hand was not a divine weapon. Their real target was in the sky. This made them want to vomit blood. However, it was not too late. Since the divine weapon had appeared, they had to obtain it. Only then would they be able to complete the mission given to them by the heavenly Netherbird. The two of them let out a long howl as they rose from the ground and quickly flew towards the sky. They had to snatch the green treasured sword before Lin Xian did. However, just as they approached the green sword, their faces changed and they dodged to the side. Because the green sword felt threatened, it began to hum. A green light shot into the sky, as if it wanted to split the world in half. The sword chi was too terrifying. The sky could not withstand it. The terrifying aura caused everyone to tremble. At this moment, they discovered that this aura was exactly the same as the one they had felt in the outside world. Without a doubt, this green sword was a divine weapon. The seventh elder and Zhu Chen's hearts beat wildly as they looked at the sword chi. They had almost been split in half by the sword chi. Fortunately, they had the black flames left behind by the heavenly Netherbird to protect them. Otherwise, they would have been in danger. However, what made them feel at ease was that after the jade-green treasured sword unleashed a shocking attack, it once again regained its calm, as if it had fallen silent. Seeing this, the seventh elder and Zhu Qin did not delay and quickly attacked again. Behind them, Duan Tianqing also roared and rushed over. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He raised his hand and released several sword chi towards Duan Tianqing and the seventh elder. In an instant, the atmosphere was extremely tense. Below, the Venerable did not attack. He looked at the sky and took a deep breath before returning to the side of the deity sword villa. This scene shocked everyone. They did not expect the Venerable to give up. Even the people from the deity sword villa were confused. They asked in unison, "Elder Venerable, Are you really not going to fight for that divine sword? Yes, with your strength, you will definitely be able to get it. However, the sword venerable shook his head slightly. Fate has been decided. We cannot force it. The rules of this place are very firm. You must not resist. Otherwise, it will cause a hopeless disaster. Hearing this, the disciples of the deity Sword Villa fell silent. They knew the Sword Venerable very well. He was an extremely ancient existence. Since he said this, he must have his reasons. Don't worry. Although that divine weapon is good, it is also a double-edged sword. Although obtaining it will greatly increase your strength, it will also bring endless trouble. Moreover, I feel that this sword is indeed extraordinary. According to my estimation, there should be an earth rank fragment in it. What? An earth rank fragment? Hearing this, everyone was overjoyed. A half-earth rank treasure that contained an earth rank fragment was definitely priceless. Chapter 12:11. Since the Sword Venerable had spoken, the deity Sword Villa did not participate in the fight for the divine weapon. Instead, they retreated to the side and watched quietly. Although the others around also had the same idea, they were not strong enough to fight against the flames in the sky. Therefore, no one dared to act rashly. At that moment, only Lin Xian and the other three were left in the sky. Kid, I have to say that you're really lucky to have found a peerless divine weapon. But your luck has come to an end because you can't get this peerless divine weapon. It's destined to be mine. Duan Tianqing's voice was filled with excitement. On the other side, the seventh elder also said coldly, Kid, we won't let you get the peerless divine sword. Faced with the three people's interception, Lin Xian did not say anything and directly used the dragon catcher hand. His spiritual power surged and drew out two true dragons. They circled around each other and formed a huge hand that quickly grabbed forward. The dragon catcher hand was said to be able to capture true dragons. At that moment, Lin Xian used it to grab the peerless divine sword in front of him. Seeing Lin Xian make a move, Duan Tianqing and the other two finally could not hold it in anymore. The three of them quickly charged toward Lin Xian. The three of them were very fast like lightning. Terrifying rays of light were like sabers and sword shadows that quickly swept forward. Duan Tianqing's murderous aura soared into the sky. He quickly threw out the Overlord Divine Fist as if he wanted to blow Lin Xian apart with one punch. On the other side, the seventh elder and Zhu Qing joined forces and threw out two huge claws. They emitted a monstrous murderous aura as they quickly grabbed at Lin Xian. The three of them were all 8th level supremacies. At that moment, they attacked with all their might. However, in the face of such a terrifying scene, Lin Xian was expressionless. He only made one move, which was to grab the 10,000 bee sting in his hand and swing it forward. Buzz! The flames that were absorbed from the 10,000 bee sting also surged out quickly. The sea of fire filled the sky. The terrifying flames burned space and time. Countless sea of fire spread and formed waves. In an instant, the attacks from the three of them were burned to ashes in the sea of fire. Not only that, the flames were like the phantom of a dragon that quickly rushed toward the three of them and enveloped them. Ah! Damn it, break for me! Duan Tianqing roared madly. His body glowed brightly as he tried to break free from the terrifying flames. However, they had underestimated these flames. These flames were used by ancient powerhouses to refine peerless weapons. No one below the king level dared to touch them. It was only because Lin Xian had used the 10,000 bee sting that he dared to take it. There was no way anyone else would be able to subdue it. The seventh elder and the 8th elder roared madly. Black lines appeared on their bodies and quickly crawled all over their bodies. Then, a ball of black flames burned fiercely and enveloped them, quickly resisting the sea of fire that filled the sky. It was fine without the black flames. But as soon as the black flames appeared, the sea of fire that filled the sky seemed to be enraged. Suddenly an incomparable radiance blossomed. More and more flames converged toward the two of them, and even Duan Tianqing felt the pressure lessen significantly. Damn it, why is it like this? Seeing this, the seventh elder and Zhu Chen's expressions turned ugly. They had only wanted to use the black flames to resist, but they had not expected such an unforeseen event to occur. It was too late for them to withdraw now. This was because the surrounding flames had completely covered them. If they withdrew the black flames now, the surrounding sea of fire would burn them to ashes. However, if they did not withdraw the black flames, they would attract more and more sea of fire. This was simply a situation of certain death. Therefore, the two of them were destined to die. In the end, they were burned to ashes by the merciless sea of fire, leaving nothing behind. Duan Tianqing was lucky enough to escape with his life, but one of his arms was also burned to ashes. 3 great 8th level curses, 2 dead and 1 injured. This scene shocked everyone. In particular, the cultivators from the deity sword villa were terrified. Fortunately, their sword venerable did not make a move. Otherwise, they would not have ended up well. In the next moment, everyone looked at the figure in the sky with horror. This was too shocking. He had directly burned 2 8th level supremacies to death. Probably no one would dare to provoke Lin Xian now, let alone have any ideas about the peerless sword. To be honest, Lin Xian was also very surprised by this result. This was because he could feel the power of the flames, which could threaten in 8th level supremacies. However, it was impossible to completely burn them to death at that time. Of course, this was also the fault of the 2 people from the Divine Bird Palace. They used the black flames to attract the endless sea of fire, which caused this scene. However, this was also good. It saved him a lot of trouble. At least now, no one dared to stop him from obtaining the peerless sword. In the next moment, Lin Xian activated the 10,000 bee sting and put the emerald sword into the cauldron. After doing this, he heaved a sigh of relief. His figure flashed and Lin Xian returned to Zhao Shui and the others. After taking away the peerless sword, there was no point in staying here any longer. Therefore, he wanted to leave. However, the others did not think so. There were still many treasured swords in the sword treasury. They were all good things. They still wanted to try. Murong Qingqing did not leave either. This was because many warriors in her family had not obtained any treasured swords yet. Therefore, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui left first, while the others searched for opportunities here. Lin Xian, where are we going? Zhao Shui asked. Just now, she also obtained a half-earth level treasure. Although she did not use a sword, she could sell it and get a lot of spirit stones. Find a safe place to rest. I want to take a look at the peerless sword over there. Previously, Lin Xian only put it away and did not look at it carefully. Now that he had time, he must study it carefully. Soon, they found an empty hall. Then, the Crimson Dragon set up a defensive formation. Lin Xian waved his hand and summoned the 10,000 bee sting again. Suddenly, a hot aura gushed out from the 10,000 bee sting, accompanied by a sharp edge. A jade-green longsword slowly appeared and floated in the void. It was like a jade-green gemstone, incomparably deep. However, if one looked closely, they would see that there were countless small cracks on the sword. Not only that, the jade-green sword was broken. 1/3 of the sword's tip was missing. It could be said that it was broken. However, the aura emitted from it was unusually sharp, far surpassing that of a half-earth level treasure. Even the Lone Star sword could not compare. The Crimson Dragon also looked at it carefully. Then, he said slowly, "This should be an earth-level treasure. However, it is very broken now." "What? You mean this is an earth-level treasure?" Lin Xian was surprised. He did not expect this peerless sword to have such a terrifying origin. He had seen the power of an earth-level treasure. After all, the 10,000 bee sting was an earth-level treasure. Its power was definitely not something they could imagine. He did not expect the long sword in front of him to be an earth-level treasure. Chapter 12:12. However, unlike the 10,000 bee sting, this sword was severely damaged, so its power was greatly reduced. It was impossible for it to display the true power of an Earth-class weapon. However, compared to a normal half-Earth class weapon, it was still much stronger. On the side, Zhao Shui also used her void eye to observe carefully. She then said in a low voice, "I'm afraid this sword can't be used easily." "Oh, what did you find?" "There's not much energy left inside. It's barely enough to keep it from breaking. If this energy is released, the entire sword will shatter. At that time, this Earth-class weapon will also shatter." "So that's how it is?" Lin Xian was shocked. Zhao Shui's eye technique was unparalleled, so this information should be accurate. "How many times can this sword be used if we want to display the sword energy that connected the heavens and earth?" "Probably around 3 times. Zhao Shui observed carefully. 3 times. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and thought for a while. "That should be enough. What do you want to do with it?" Zhao Shui asked. "This sword is very powerful. It's a waste to use it against normal warriors. What do you think about using it against the heavenly Netherbird?" "You want to deal with the heavenly Netherbird?" Zhao Shui was very surprised to hear Lin Xian's words. The heavenly Netherbird's power was obvious to all. Even a king-level warrior might not be able to defeat it. And now, Lin Xian actually wanted to make a move against him. This was truly shocking. However, when she thought of Lin Xian's actions, Zhao Shui understood. However, there was one thing that she was very confused about. Could this sword really hurt the heavenly Netherbird? "I don't know if it can hurt it, but one thing is for sure. The heavenly Netherbird is very afraid of this sword. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent 2 people from the Holy Bird Palace to steal it. With this sword, they would be able to deal with the heavenly Netherbird." The next step was to find the key to the star chain. If they had it in their hands, the heavenly Netherbird would be even more afraid. Of course, they couldn't let those people break the array. Otherwise, they would be in danger when the heaven Netherbird came in. Next, Lin Xian tried to find a way to control the sword. This treasured sword was dark green in color. It floated in the air, and on its hilt were the words, Sang Song, the Ashen Pine Sword. Could it be that this treasured sword was the weapon used by the peerless powerhouse in the past? When Lin Xian saw these 2 words, his heart also burned with passion. This powerhouse named Sang Song was able to suppress even the heavenly Netherbird back then. One could imagine how powerful he was. The sword he had left behind was absolutely terrifying. Thinking of this, Lin Xian's eyes burned with passion as he reached for the Ashen Pine Sword. Normally, the Ashen Pine Sword would flicker with light. Although its aura was fierce, it would always be concealed. However, once it received a threat from the outside world, the long sword would emit a hum, and streaks of dark green sword light would soar into the sky. Lin Xian used the shadow of the red lotus armor. Even so, he was still hurt by the sword chi. His blood and chi roiled, and cracks appeared on the armor. This was only the sword chi emitted by the long sword. If it was controlled by someone else, it would probably be able to split his red lotus armor. As expected of an Earth-ranked treasure. "It's really terrifying," Lin Xian exclaimed. Other than the complete 10,000 bee sting in his hands, he didn't have anything that could compete with the other party. Of course, the Great Dragon Sword Soul was an exception. Feeling the violent sword chi, Lin Xian immediately used the Great Dragon Sword Soul. Streaks of dragon-shaped sword shadows flew forward, emitting deep dragon roars and sword cries. It was amazing. When the sword chi condensed by the Great Dragon Sword Soul wrapped around the Ashen Pine Sword, the latter suddenly stopped going berserk and calmed down. Seeing this, Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief. The Great Dragon Sword Soul was indeed an offensive saint art. It was incomparably mysterious. Even the powerful Earth-ranked treasure sword could only calm down in front of it. Taking a deep breath, countless dragon-shaped sword chi wrapped around his palm. Then, Lin Xian grabbed the sword in front of him. In the next moment, he grabbed the Ashen Pine Sword in his hand. This time, the Ashen Pine Sword did not resist. He slightly channeled his spiritual power into the Ashen Pine Sword. Then, the Ashen Pine Sword shone brightly. Countless green sword rays surged out, and instantly dyed the palace green. Success! Seeing this, Zhao Shui breathed a sigh of relief. The next step was to find the key to remove the nebula chain. After removing the formation, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui left the secluded palace. Not long after they left, they met many warriors. The Shen family was leading them. When the Shen family saw Lin Xian, their eyes lit up. It couldn't be helped. Now, everyone knew that the peerless godly weapon was in Lin Xian's hands. It was a peerless godly weapon. It was something left behind by an ancient expert. One could imagine how precious it was. If anyone could get their hands on it, their strength would definitely increase greatly. It could even bring their family to a higher level. Especially the House of Kings. They were determined to get their hands on it. So now, they looked at Lin Xian with envy. When Lin Xian saw these people, he knew what they were thinking. He snorted coldly. Suddenly, an extremely green sword chi appeared behind him. The green sword radiance emitted an extremely terrifying aura. It was like the might of a king. Boom! Feeling this terrifying aura, the warriors in front trembled. Their eyes were filled with fear. It was as if they were not facing a long sword, but an extremely terrifying king. In an instant, the 9th young master, 11th young master, and 13th young master's faces turned pale. Especially the 9th young master. Besides fear, there was also a strong sense of jealousy in his eyes. Of course, in this situation, he did not dare to do anything. As for the Shen family's elders, they were shocked when they saw this. How can it be? How can he control such a peerless godly weapon in such a short time? They were too shocked. Although peerless godly weapons were powerful, they were not easy to subdue. This was especially true for weapons passed down from ancient times. Some of them even needed to be refined again. So, in their opinion, although Lin Xian had obtained the peerless godly weapon, he could not control it in a short time. This gave them a chance. If they planned carefully, they might be able to snatch the peerless godly weapon back from him. But now, they had completely given up. Judging from the current situation, Lin Xian had already controlled the peerless godly weapon. Otherwise, he could not emit that kind of sword radiance. This made them extremely shocked. They could not understand what method Lin Xian had used to subdue the peerless godly weapon in such a short time. Perhaps even the House of Kings did not have such a method. Chapter 12-13. Young Master, let's retreat first. The elder of the Shen family quickly advised. He was afraid that Jiu Gongzi and the rest would rush forward. All right. Jiu Gongzi and the rest did not dare to take the risk in the face of the terrifying sword Dao Qi. They immediately led everyone away. Seeing the Shen family's martial artists leave, the surrounding martial artists felt like they were in a dream. The House of Kings was scared away without even making a move. Just thinking about it made their blood boil. The House of Kings was the most powerful force in the Tianwu continent. It was an existence that everyone could only look up to. But now, someone had used their aura to scare away the House of Kings. This was the dream of every martial artist. However, Lin Xian was probably the only one who could do such a thing. Seeing the Shen family's people leave, Lin Xian felt great. Once upon a time, the House of Kings was like a mountain that he could only look up to. But now, he had grown to the point where he could compete with the House of Kings. Of course, he knew that the House of Kings was terrifying. It was impossible for them to only have this much strength. However, he was not afraid of anyone in the remote sky secret realm. Lin Xian's eyes were like lightning as he looked around. He then said in a deep voice, "Everyone, there is one thing that I would like to remind everyone. We are not enemies. There is no need to fight to the death as soon as we meet. Our common enemy is the heavenly nether bird. Don't forget that if we can't find a way in a month, the heavenly nether bird will appear and none of us will be able to survive." Hearing this, many martial artists' faces turned pale and their bodies trembled. That's right. They had only been fighting for treasures and had forgotten that they were still in danger. They were still under the threat of the heavenly nether bird. In a month's time, the heavenly nether bird would appear. The heavenly nether bird was extremely terrifying. None of them would be able to stop it. When the heavenly nether bird appeared, they would have no way to survive. Seeing everyone's pale faces, Lin Xian said again. Of course, you don't have to be so emotional. As long as we find the key to the star chains, there might still be a glimmer of hope. The key to the star chains. Yes, the heavenly netherbird was bound by the mysterious star chain. As long as he could find the key to the star chain, he would have the qualifications to negotiate with the heavenly netherbird. Thinking of this, everyone's eyes regained their luster. Many of them clenched their fists and swore to find the key to the star chains. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that everyone's emotions had been roused. The Pine Hall was actually quite big. If it was just Lin Xian searching by himself, it might have taken a lot of effort. However, things were different now. With so many people searching together, it wouldn't take long for them to find the location of the stellar key. This way, it would save him the trouble of looking for it. When the time came, he would only need to break the array formation. Sure enough, in the following days, other than searching for treasures, they also set off a trend of searching. Because this matter was closely related to everyone's lives, no one dared to be careless. In the end, after everyone's hard work, they ruled out other places and finally locked onto 2 places. These 2 places were completely different. One was in the north, and the other was in the south. The only thing they had in common was that these 2 places were protected by powerful spirit arrays. They should be the core of the entire Deep Pine Palace. The one in the south was called the Pine Hall, and the one in the north was called the Star Hall. This news was like a hurricane that instantly spread throughout the Pine Hall. In an instant, everyone knew. However, these people didn't make a move. Instead, they began to discuss intensely. This was because they didn't have much time left. Moreover, the array formation was so powerful that with their strength, they would only be able to break through one place. Therefore, it was extremely important to find the location to break through. Many of them chose the Star Hall. This was because from the name, it was obvious that this hall was related to the stellar chains. It was very likely that the key to the stellar chains was hidden inside. Once they had the key, they would have the qualifications to negotiate with the Heaven Netherbird. However, there were others who didn't think so. As far as they were concerned, whether or not they could break the astral chains was meaningless to them. This was because even if the Heaven Netherbird had the stellar chains, with their strength, they wouldn't be able to contend against it. Therefore, breaking through the stellar chains was extremely unimportant. Instead, it was the other hall that attracted their attention. The Pine Hall. This place was called the Pine Hall. Lin Xian's treasure sword was also called the Pine Hall. It was obvious that the name Pine Hall was the name of the ancient powerhouse. Since the hall was named Pine Hall, it could be said to be the most important place in the entire Pine Hall. Presumably, there was a defense room that controlled the Big Dipper 7 stars formation. Moreover, according to these people's estimations, the Pine Hall didn't only have a control room. There were also other treasures, such as cultivation techniques and the like. This was because after searching for so long in the Pine Hall, they had obtained many treasures and even weapons. However, the only thing that they hadn't obtained was a cultivation technique. Thinking about it, those cultivation methods should be hidden in this Pine Palace. Therefore, these people urgently wanted to enter the Pine Hall. In an instant, the crowd was divided into 2 factions. The factions that supported breaking through the Pine Hall were the Palace of War and the Shen family's House of Kings. There were also the Divine Bird Palace and many other rank 6 sects. The factions that supported the Star Hall were the Murong family and the Merry Forest. There were also many rank 6 sects that supported them. It could be said that both sides were evenly matched. No one could convince the other. In the end, these people decided to split up. The Palace of War and the Shen family led a group of warriors to the Pine Hall in the south. The Murong family and the Merry Forest teamed up to break through the Star Hall in the north. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes when he heard the news. However, in the end, he chose to go to the Star Hall. This was because even if they found the control room, they wouldn't be able to stop the Heavenly Netherbird. If that was the case, it would be better to find the key to break the Star Hall. Lin Xian brought the Crimson Dragon and flew towards the Star Hall with Zhao Shui. Not long after, they saw a blue pagoda. The pagoda was tall and majestic. The material on the outside was like the stars, shining brightly. Not only that, they also saw a mysterious array that covered the entire Star Hall. This meant that they could only enter if they broke the array. Everyone, we can only break the array if we work together. Murong Qingqing's expression was very serious. After that, the Murong family and the Merry Forest House of Kings sent out array masters. They worked together with other warriors who were proficient in array masters. They began to research and break the array. At the same time, the Palace of War and the Shen family arrived at the Pine Hall in the north. Chapter 12:14. At the same time, the Palace of War and the Shen family also arrived at the Pine Pavilion in the north. It was a very simple and unadorned pavilion. It gave off an ancient and desolate aura, as well as a terrifying pressure. That kind of pressure even surpassed that of a king. This made these people very excited. A secret manual left behind by an ancient expert was definitely a rare treasure. If they could obtain one or two of it, their strength would definitely increase greatly. Thinking of this, these people were also excited and quickly formed a team to crack it. In a moment, both sides were in full swing. At the Star Pavilion, the Crimson Dragon held his chin and continued to study. Lin Xian's expression was also serious as he said in a deep voice, "It seems that this array is not inferior to the Big Dipper array outside. It is indeed not as simple as the Big Dipper array outside." The Crimson Dragon also nodded. "But this time, our situation is better because we still have enough time." Although they were under pressure now, they still had a month's time. They were not under the Heaven Netherbird's feet like last time. They believed that with the Crimson Dragon's ability, they should be able to crack it. "If that's the case, then we won't delay any longer." Lin Xian stopped his work and said loudly, "Everyone, how is your research going? This array is too exquisite. As expected of an ancient array. Yeah, I have never seen such a profound array in my life. It will be very difficult to crack it. Why don't you let me think about it?" The group of array masters looked troubled. Indeed, with their strength, it was too difficult to break this ancient array. But then, they all looked at Lin Xian and said, "Kid, how did you enter the Big Dipper array last time?" "Yeah, we couldn't even crack that array." "How did you get in? Are you an array master? Or do you have an array master with you?" Everyone looked at Lin Xian with suspicion. However, the corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up slightly. "I do have a formation expert by my side. If you guys can listen to his orders, you might be able to break this formation very quickly." "What? There really is an array master? Where is he? Ask him to come out. This old man must learn from him." The group of formation grandmasters were all excited. It couldn't be helped. The other party was an array formation grandmaster that could break the Big Dipper formation. His strength far surpassed theirs. If they could befriend such a person, perhaps their array formation standards would increase greatly. This was an opportunity that might not be encountered even in 100 years. Therefore, these people were abnormally excited. "All right, Roussillon, it's your turn." Lin Xian waved his hand. "All right, Ben Wang will reluctantly teach them." The Crimson Dragon walked out with his head held high. "Since you guys are sincerely asking for guidance, then Ben Wang will be merciful and tell you." "That's right, I am that formation master." Puff! Hearing this, everyone's saliva sprayed out, especially those array masters. All of them widened their eyes and their beards curled up. "Brat, you dare to tease this old man. Damned snake, how dare you take advantage of me?" The group of array masters stomped their feet in anger. Seeing this scene, the Crimson Dragon was also unhappy. A group of ignorant humans. Ben Wang is so angry that he doesn't cherish such a good opportunity. Seeing so many array masters quarreling with a snake, the surrounding people were all stunned. "Lin Xian, what the hell are you doing?" The elders were also very confused. However, Lin Xian shrugged and pointed at the Crimson Dragon. "I told you, it's the array master you're looking for. Hearing this, the array masters were so angry that their noses became crooked. Alright. I'd like to see what tricks a snake can play. Brat, I'm really angry. If you don't give me a reasonable explanation today, don't blame me for not letting you go. A snake actually knows about formations? You must be dreaming. Are you still asleep? The group of people didn't believe it. Ben Huang is so angry. Look carefully. The Crimson Dragon stomped his feet in anger. Then, he turned and pointed at the array in front of him. Do you know what array this is? This is the Migres fly array. This array has a total of 124 variations. Among them, there are only 2 life gates. The rest are all dead. If you take a wrong step, you'll be doomed eternally. Moreover, this array absorbs the power of the stars and contains the 5 elements technique. It can be said that it's very complicated. It's not something people like you can understand. The Crimson Dragon's words silenced the array masters, and the surrounding warriors looked at each other. Judging from his boastful manner, he didn't seem like a liar. Could he really be an array master? But how could this be possible? A snake was actually an array master? This was unacceptable. The array masters were very shocked because what the Crimson Dragon said was completely correct. They had never even heard of some of these arrays. Then do you have a way to break it? An old man asked in a trembling voice. Use the twin yin-yang formation and the reverse 5 elements technique to break it. The Crimson Dragon said snappily, I reckon you don't know these 2 things at all. You might not even have heard of them. This time, the array masters didn't mock him. Instead, they were shocked. Then, one by one, they screamed, What? The twin yin-yang formation? That's a lost array. You really know the twin yin-yang formation? These old men were very excited. They only knew the reverse 5 elements technique, and the twin yin-yang formation was only heard of in legends. But they had never seen it before. Now, there was a snake who knew the twin yin-yang formation. This shocked them and made them very confused. The Crimson Dragon curled his lips, then stretched out his dragon claws and waved them in the air. Suddenly, 2 balls of black and white gas appeared on the dragon claws. They kept spinning and finally formed a yin-yang diagram. That's right. It's really the twin yin-yang formation. This scene is exactly the same as in the legends. Great Master, you really are a great master. Senior, I offended you just now. Please don't take it to heart. Great Master, are you still accepting disciples? What do you think of me? It's okay if you don't accept disciples. I can be your follower. I can even serve tea and water. At this moment, a group of array formation masters had gathered around the dark red divine dragon and were shrieking. The surrounding martial artists were all dumbfounded. That's an array formation grandmaster. He was an existence that all the major forces treated as a guest of honor. Normally, he was also highly respected by others. But now, they didn't look like masters at all. They looked like a group of children. The Murong family and the elders of Merry Woods twitched their mouths. Murong Qinchin, on the other hand, was chuckling. She was also aware of the dark red godly dragon's miraculous abilities. Presumably, under its guidance, they should be able to break through the Star Pavilion's formation. Chapter 12:15. All right, stop arguing. Line up properly. The Crimson Dragon waved his hand impatiently. All right, great God, we'll listen to you. Immediately, the array masters lined up neatly. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people's jaws dropped even further. Were they still array masters? Why did it feel like they were more obedient than the disciples? It wasn't that they didn't understand, but that the world was changing too quickly. The Crimson Dragon nodded in satisfaction and waved his hand. Next, I'll assign you a task. You must complete it well. If I'm satisfied, I can teach you a thing or 2. Really? Hearing this, the array masters were excited. Great God, don't worry. We promise to complete the task. All right, let's cut to the chase. The Crimson Dragon commanded. You, stand in the direction of the fire gate. You, stand in the direction of the water gate. You, stand in the direction of the earth gate. The Crimson Dragon commanded quickly. Soon, the array masters stood in different directions. Next, use the reverse 5 elements technique to break it. I'll use the twin yin-yang formation to help you. With that, the Crimson Dragon waved his claws and formed a black and white array. In the next moment, the array masters worked together to break it. As time passed, the chi in the entire Hidden Sky secret realm became tense. This was because they didn't have much time left. Soon, the heavenly Netherbird would break the Big Dipper 7 stars formation outside and enter the Pine Palace. Then, it would be their doomsday. As for whether they could stop the heavenly Netherbird, it would depend on their luck. At the Pine Palace, the array masters from the Palace of Aries and the Shin family led a group of people to quickly study it. However, they didn't make any substantial progress. Up ahead, a group of formation masters surrounded the extremely profound formation and sighed incessantly. Some of them even pulled out their hair. How is it? Still no clue? Duan Tianqing asked. At this moment, he was still tall and straight, but his empty sleeve was a bit desolate. This was the arm that was burned off in the battle with Lin Xian. Although he still had an immortal golden pill, he did not dare to use it. Because he still had to face the heavenly Netherbird, he had to save his life at the last moment. Therefore, this arm had not grown out yet. However, it was clear that Duan Tianqing was not in the mood to care about his arm. He stared straight ahead and asked about the array formation. The array master from the Palace of Aries shook his head and sighed. It's not that we don't want to break it, but we really don't have a clue. This array is too profound. It's an ancient array. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for us to break it. But don't worry, we've found some clues. We should be able to take action in a few days. Okay, you have to hurry. You must break the formation before the Heaven Serene bird comes in. Duan Tianqing said in a deep voice. Don't worry, we won't joke around with our lives. However, whether or not it can be broken will depend on the will of the heavens. The array master from the Palace of Gods of War sighed. Then, he walked forward and continued his research. Unlike the gloomy atmosphere at Deep Pine Hall, the Star Pavilion on the other side was in full swing. Under the lead of the Crimson Dragon, a group of array masters began their journey to break the array formation. Soon, they broke the array formation with irresistible force. Haha, great God, you're too strong. You can even break this ancient array formation. That's right, Senior. I have a whole new level of respect for you. I didn't expect your technique to be so exquisite. I didn't expect it to be like this. I feel like I've wasted all these years. The group of array masters was very excited. They were as excited as children. On the other hand, the Crimson Dragon said proudly, Not bad, not bad. You've all done well. Don't worry, I won't mistreat you. With the Crimson Dragon's command, Lin Xian and the rest did not need to do anything. They just quietly cultivated. After all, no one knew what was going on inside the Star Pavilion. It had been 7 days since they started breaking the array formation. They had also broken more than half of the array formation in front of them. After another 3 days, the array formation in front of them was finally broken. Ha ha! It's finally broken. The Crimson Dragon was like an old monster, constantly shouting. The array masters were also excitedly waving their fists. Godly skill, it's really godly. Heavens, I actually broke the ancient array formation with my own hands. I'm not dreaming, am I? Just this experience alone is enough for me to brag about for the rest of my life. The array masters were too excited. The surrounding people were even more shocked. They did not expect to break the ancient array formation in just 10 days. This was much better than what they had expected. Since it's broken, let's go in. Lin Xian stood up, his eyes shining. Then, the group carefully set off forward. At the same time, there was also good news from the Deep Pine Hall. Everyone, we finally found a way to break it. I believe that as long as we work together, we will definitely be able to break it. One of the array masters roared excitedly. It was not easy. They had thought for 10 days and their hair had turned white. Finally, they came up with a solution. Duan Tianqing and the others were also excited. They said anxiously, "No matter what method we use, we must break the array formation. If you have any requests, just tell us. We will definitely help you." They were too excited because the interior of the Deep Pine Hall not only had the array formation control room, but also countless secret cultivation techniques. Those were the real peerless treasures. Not only could they enjoy them, but they could also bring them back for their family disciples to learn and strengthen their family. Humph, those idiots still want to break the Star Pavilion. What's in there? How can it be comparable to the Deep Pine Hall? That's right. This is a secret cultivation technique left behind by an ancient expert. If I can learn it, I will definitely be able to defeat that Lin Xian. Yan Feng gritted his teeth. Until now, he had not fully recovered from his injuries. It was all thanks to Lin Xian. Therefore, when he thought of that figure, he was filled with murderous intent. It was ridiculous that they did not know that Lin Xian and the others had already entered the Star Pavilion. If they knew, they would probably be in the mood to cry. On the other side, Lin Xian led the group into the Star Pavilion. It had to be said that the Star Pavilion was indeed magical. After they entered, they found that they did not believe in the pavilion at all. Beneath their feet and the ceiling were all blue. It was as if countless stars were shining in the sky. The surrounding walls were incomparably deep, and there were shooting stars streaking across from time to time. It was as if they had entered a boundless starry sky instead of a tall building. It's amazing! It's so beautiful! It's like a real starry sky! The group of people was amazed. Lin Xian was also surprised. He had never seen such a magical scene before, so he took a few more glances. Chapter 12:16. In the next moment, his heart skipped a beat as if a bolt of lightning had flashed across his mind. These stars don't seem ordinary. Lin Xian looked at the starry sky around him and seemed to have realized something. Both of you try to feel it. Maybe you'll find something, Lin Xian said to Murong Qingqing and Zhao Shui. The two of them believed in Lin Xian's words and started to feel the starry sky around them. You don't say, I'm really enlightened, Murong Qingqing said as she blinked her beautiful eyes. Yes, I also sensed a mysterious force. Zhao Shui nodded. The Crimson Dragon also looked around and said, Kid, this place is very strange. It seems like there's only this space. You mean there's nothing else but this starry sky? Lin Xian asked. Yes, the entire Star Pavilion is filled with this starry sky. There's nothing else. If we want to find the key to the star chain, we'll have to start from this starry sky. The starry sky's mysteries were soon known by everyone. Then, some people were pleasantly surprised. They were happy because this space was very mysterious and had a mysterious force. If they tried to feel it, they might be able to gain something. But they were worried because it would be difficult to find the key to the star chain in such a mysterious place. But no matter what, they had to give it a try. Therefore, many people sat down cross-legged and tried to feel the starry sky around them. Many people even tried to feel the existence of the key to the starry sky. Lin Xian also looked around with his hands behind his back. Looking at the boundless starry sky, his heart was filled with emotions. Gradually, his horizons were broadened. Especially the meteors that flashed by, it reminded him of a sword technique, meteor from outer space. Could it be that this starry sky map contains some kind of martial arts technique? Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat because he realized that the meteors were similar to his sword technique. They were so fast and flashed by, brilliant but short. Maybe it's possible. Lin Xian continued to look. Gradually, he found some patterns in the meteors, as if the stars were moving along a certain path. The meteors seemed to have turned into swords, flying through the sky like a rain of swords. Gradually, Lin Xian entered a state of selflessness. Not only him, but Murong Qingqing and Zhao Shui had also entered a mysterious state. Even the Crimson Dragon was grinning from ear to ear. Everyone seemed to have gained something from the starry sky. In the blink of an eye, another 5 days had passed. On this day, Lin Xian suddenly awoke from his comprehension, and clarity returned to his eyes. Then, he took a deep breath and a boundless aura erupted from his body. It was like a sea of stars, incomparably deep. Following Lin Xian's movements, Murong Qingqing and Zhao Shui also opened their eyes. I seem to have sensed the mysterious power of the stars. I wonder what you have sensed? Murong Qingqing asked. Eyes of the stars. Those eyes seem to contain a mysterious power. Zhao Shui's eyes sparkled. On the other hand, Lin Xian saw a sword technique that was as vast as the sea of stars. Ben Huang saw the Big Dipper formation. The Crimson Dragon also joined in. Hearing these different answers, everyone fell silent and fell into deep thought. It seems that the starry sky is more mysterious than we thought. It allows us to see different things. Moreover, these things are very suitable for us. Zhao Shui sighed. As expected of something left behind by a peerless ancient expert. It is indeed mysterious. Murong Qingqing was also shocked. Lin Xian was a little worried because until now, he had not found any trace of the stellar chain key. Was there really a stellar chain key here? The surrounding people also had the same doubts. Although they had gained many benefits, they still had not found the key. If you want to find the key, you have to leave this starry sky. At this moment, Zero's voice sounded. Leave this starry sky? How do you do that? Lin Xian was puzzled. That will depend on your own comprehension. After saying that, Zero went silent. My own enlightenment? Leave this starry sky? Hearing this, Lin Xian fell into deep thought. This starry sky was in the stellar tower. Naturally, leaving the stellar tower meant leaving the starry sky. However, Zero obviously did not mean that. Moreover, there could not be a key outside the stellar tower. In other words, if they had to leave this starry sky, they had to be in the stellar tower. Only then could they find the key. It seemed that there were other spaces in the stellar tower other than this starry sky. It was just that they had not been discovered yet. After figuring this out, Lin Xian's eyes were as sharp as a sword as he quickly scanned the surroundings. However, he only saw a boundless night sky. Everyone, I don't know if you have a way to leave this starry sky. In the end, Lin Xian told everyone about this so that they could collectively think of a way. In the following time, everyone tried to leave this starry sky. Some people ran madly in one direction, but in the end, they found that they were still under the starry sky. It was as if the starry sky was boundless and was truly a vast universe. No, we can't run out at all. This starry sky can't be an independent space, right? If that's really the case, who knows how big this space is? I just flew for a while. With my speed, I can already fly out of the Pine Palace. However, I still can't fly out of this starry sky. Could this be a real starry sky? Everyone was extremely surprised because they could not think of a way to leave this starry sky. Of course, this was apart from leaving the stellar tower. Even the older generation members of the King clans were frowning. Could it be that this is also an array, similar to an illusion array? Although we are running in one direction, under the effect of the array, we are just going around in circles. A formation master proposed such an idea. It's possible. This is definitely an illusion array. Hearing this, many people nodded in agreement because this was the only way that would make sense. However, the Crimson Dragon shook his head. It's not an array because I don't feel the power of an array. This should be an even more mysterious existence. Who was the Crimson Dragon? He was an array master and the person who led them here. Therefore, they believed his words. Everyone believed him without a doubt. If it's not an array, then what is it? Everyone was very puzzled. After that, they stayed here again for 3 days and 3 nights to study carefully. However, they still did not find anything. Not only that, but they also encountered new problems. Oh no, we can't find the way back. Damn it, the door is gone. What? The door is gone? Hearing this, everyone panicked. They quickly searched but found that the door they came in through was really gone. Chapter 12:17. At this moment, the scenery around them was like a real starry sky. The sky and earth were filled with stars in all directions. It was boundless and boundless. It was as if they were really in the universe. Damn it, are we really trapped here? Someone roared madly. He was unwilling to give up and attack the void. However, their attacks seemed to sink into the sea and did not cause any waves. Next, they tried various methods, but they did not find the way back. It was as if they had really been exiled into the void of the universe. Gradually, they seemed to have lost track of time. No one knew how much time had passed. From what they knew, it seemed like a month had passed. At this time, the heavenly netherbird outside had already entered. However, the stellar pavilion they were in was not attacked at all. There was also no movement. Therefore, they really did not know what was happening outside. Gradually, 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 2 years, everyone was completely lost in the starry sky. In the end, they decided that they could not sit still and wait for death. They had to find a way out. Therefore, they set off in one direction. This time, they would not stop until they got out. However, they seemed to have walked for 3 years and still could not see the end. This made countless people despair. Many people even had white hair overnight. No, if this continues, I'm afraid we will really die here. A few of the elders from the king's families were worried because they found that the spiritual power and vitality in their bodies were quickly disappearing. Some of the older ones even began to wither. Now, everyone had long lost their fighting spirit. There was only endless despair and fear. Lin Xian seemed to have become silent. He had been trying to find a way out. However, he had tried all of them and none of them had succeeded. Fortunately, he had the dragon sword spirit in his body, which allowed him to stay awake at all times. Therefore, he did not lose his fighting spirit like the people around him. However, they could not go on like this. Lin Xian, do you have any ideas? Are we really going to be trapped here until we die? Zhao Shui frowned. On the other side, Murong Qingqing's face was tense, and she did not say a word. Don't worry, things are not as bad as we think. Although it seems like many years have passed, it has not been that long. What did you find? Upon hearing Lin Xian's words, Murong Qingqing asked in confusion. Although the blood and qi of those elders has withered and become incomparably old, have you all noticed that our cultivation hasn't increased by much? It is true that those elders have aged. However, we are all quite talented. Under normal circumstances, we would have reached the 8th or 9th heavenly layer of exalted realm in 30 to 50 years. But now, our cultivation levels are still at the same level. Don't you think it's strange? As soon as these words came out, it immediately woke up many people. Especially Murong Qingqing and Zhao Shui, their bodies trembled and their eyes were filled with shock. That's right. Lin Xian was right. With our aptitude, I'm afraid we would have already advanced. But now, they didn't advance, which meant that there was a problem with the timing. And if there was a problem with time, it meant that what they had experienced before was just an illusion. It's not all an illusion. At the very least, our mental states have changed. Lin Xian explained. However, he didn't say anything else. Instead, he began to comprehend again because he seemed to have found some clues. In the boundless starry sky, in the vast universe, lost oneself. Could this be an examination of one's will? Lin Xian guessed. Because it was very likely. After such a long time, if one's will wasn't strong enough, they would have collapsed long ago. Looking at the surrounding warriors, it was obvious. However, he remained firm and didn't waver, but he still didn't walk out of this starry sky. In other words, this wasn't an examination of one's will. Then what is it? Lin Xian frowned. He kept looking around at the starry sky and fell into endless thoughts. He wanted to ask Zero, but in the end, he gave up. He had to rely on himself for this matter. However, it was this process that made his heart skip a beat. Zero was in the mysterious space in his body, and the mysterious space in his body was in the sword-shaped pendant. This in itself was a miracle. A finger-sized sword-shaped pendant actually contained a world. This was even bigger than the space opened up by those ancient powerhouses. It was really amazing. A flower, a world, everything had a spirit. Lin Xian's eyes became brighter and brighter. He seemed to have grasped the key. The vast starry sky was boundless, and the universe was even more boundless. However, it was very likely that it was just a leaf or a flower. It was even possible that the entire universe was contained in a pavilion. Lin Xian also had a magical world in his body. That world also had infinite space. Thinking of this, the corners of his mouth curled up into a confident smile. I am the universe, and the universe is me. This is both real and illusory. After saying that, Lin Xian took a step forward. This step seemed to transcend time and space, as if he had stepped through eternity. In the next moment, light appeared around Lin Xian. The scene was no longer a vast starry sky, but an ordinary pavilion. We're out. Lin Xian was extremely excited. He looked up and found that it was a spacious hall that could accommodate all of them. Everyone else was in the center of the hall. Their bodies were like statues, and everyone had a confused look on their faces. Under their feet, there was a huge star pattern. These people had gone out but never stepped out of the star pattern. Is this a formation? Lin Xian looked in front of him and was extremely shocked. But very quickly he denied this thought. Because it didn't look like an array, it looked more like a painting. No way, a painting can actually create such a terrifying scene. It's as if it's real. Everyone is lost in it. This method is too terrifying. Lin Xian felt his scalp go numb. What kind of terrifying powerhouse could have such a heaven-defying method? Once he got rid of the distracting thoughts in his mind, the most important thing now was to find the key to the astral chains. He looked around and found a stone platform in front of him. On the stone platform there was a blue stone that looked like a real star fragment. Could this be the key to the astral chains? Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. He quickly came to the front of the stone platform and grabbed the blue stone in his hand. The stone didn't have any tough edges. It felt warm to the touch. Just as Lin Xian picked up the blue stone, the people in the hall behind him screamed. It's gone. The stars have disappeared. Oh my God, we're saved! Thank the heavens for giving me a chance to be reborn. The group of people was extremely excited. They felt as if they had just survived a disaster. Where's Lin Xian? Murong Qingqing frowned. She didn't find Lin Xian beside her. Chapter 12:18. Over there! Zhao Shui stretched out her hand and pointed forward. Then, everyone looked forward and found that Lin Xian was indeed there. Could it be that Lin Xian was the first to come out? That means that Lin Xian saved us. Everyone was astonished and shocked in their hearts. This was too unbelievable. Even the elders and seniors did not come out, but Lin Xian walked out of the starry sky. How did he do it? Lin Xian only smiled at this question and pointed at the ground beneath their feet. This is a starry sky pattern, the Murong family elder exclaimed. Could this pattern be an array? Soon, a group of array masters studied it. However, they found that it was not an array that they knew of. Perhaps it was a higher-level array. However, the Crimson Dragon shook his head frantically. There was even a hint of fear in his eyes. It's definitely not an array. It's just a picture. Damn it, who could have such a heaven-defying method? He was too shocked because he could not do such a thing. What? It's a picture. You're saying that we were in the picture? Everyone was shocked and could not believe it. After hearing this news, everyone was shocked beyond words. A painting, just a painting, had trapped all of them. If not for Lin Xian, they would have been trapped here for the rest of their lives. Who on earth is it? How could he have such terrifying means? The elders of the House of Kings were shocked. Even a king would not have such a method. The group was shocked beyond words. They felt that this place was filled with mystery and strangeness. Right, did you get the key to the starry sky chain? Murong Qingqing looked at Lin Xian. I got it. Lin Xian opened his palm and revealed the blue stone. Hearing this, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, although they had encountered some dangerous situations, they had obtained the key to the starry sky chain. This way, they would have some confidence in facing the heavenly Netherbird. Since they had obtained the key, everyone left the Star Pavilion. The next thing they needed to do was to wait for the heavenly Netherbird. Lin Xian had succeeded, but the situation at Sangsung Pavilion was not optimistic. Ever since the last time, those formation masters had been constantly researching and finally found a way, so they hurriedly took action. However, the defensive formation was even more powerful than they'd imagined. Thus, in the past few days, they'd only managed to break through a small part of it. If they wanted to completely break through it, it would likely take them 2 to 3 months. Half a month later, the heavenly Netherbird would break the Big Dipper 7-star formation and enter the Pine Palace. Therefore, it was impossible for them to complete it within half a month. For a moment, everyone's face was incomparably gloomy. This won't do. We don't have enough manpower. If this goes on, we won't be able to break the formation. Why don't we look for the Murong family and the people from Merry Woods? I think we can only break the formation quickly if we work together. Duan Tianqing frowned and said in a low voice, "All right, let's discuss it with them." Very quickly, a few martial artists ran towards the Star Pavilion. This small team was led by an array Grand Master and 3 Seventh Heaven Venerables. Their speed was very fast, and it didn't take long for them to arrive near the Star Pavilion. However, in the next moment, they were stunned. This was because they'd expected the other party to be the same as them, unable to break the formation. However, it seemed that the situation was a little off. This was because those people were sitting cross-legged on the ground, silently cultivating. However, they didn't have any anxious expressions on their faces. This surprised them greatly. One had to know that they were going crazy over there, but there was no movement from this side. It was really too strange. Who's sneaking around? Get out here! Just as the formation master from the Palace of Aries was observing, the elder from the Murong family suddenly opened his eyes and snorted coldly. Don't be agitated. It's us. The formation master from the Palace of Aries walked out with 3 martial artists. He didn't want to be misunderstood and be attacked by those people. It's you? Many people present recognized the formation master. Among them, the elder from the Murong family frowned. Weren't you guys trying to break the formation in the Pine Pavilion? Why are you here? To be honest, that formation is too difficult to break. Our people are familiar with it, but they can't break it in a short period of time. So, I think we should work together to break the formation. This way, we can definitely break the formation before the Sky Netherbird comes. Otherwise, we'll all die here. I knew you couldn't break it, but what does that have to do with me? The formation master from the Murong family said coldly. You guys were the ones who insisted on splitting up. Now you want to join up? Do you think the Palace of Aries can control everyone? Not only the Murong family, but even the elder from the Merry Woods was unhappy. We're all from the House of Kings. Why should the Palace of Aries decide whether to join up or split up? Why should we listen to you? I know you're unhappy, but now is not the time to be loyal. If we can't break the formation, none of us can escape. You think too much. We don't need you to care about our business. The elder from the Murong family coldly refused. The others also sneered, as if they didn't care about the threat that was about to come. You guys are a bunch of idiots. Don't you know what kind of danger you're in? Seeing that those people didn't move, the formation master from the Palace of Aries was furious. Since you guys don't want to cooperate, then don't blame us. When we break the formation, don't come begging us. After saying that, he snorted and left with a gloomy face. Seeing the other party leave, the warriors from the Murong family and the Merry Woods sneered. They didn't care about the other party's threat. After all, they had already broken the formation and obtained the stellar key. When the time comes, it's not certain who will be begging who. However, the elders were worried. Lin Gongzi, do we really not want to cooperate with them? Hearing that, Lin Xian shook his head. It's better if we don't open the pine pavilion. Otherwise, if we destroy the formation control room, we'll be in trouble. When the time comes, the heavenly netherbird will come in early. In such a short time, we won't be able to control the stellar beast. Then we'll really have no way to survive." Hearing that, the other elders nodded. Indeed, the formation was very important. They couldn't destroy it. If that's the case, then we won't go help. We'll stay here and watch. But I hope that the stellar key can really restrain the heavenly netherbird. Don't worry, there's still some time. I'll try my best to control the stellar key, Lin Xian said. Chapter 12:19. Also, we won't fight the heaven serene bird head on. We just need to hold it back. After all, it won't be long before we're transported out. As long as we can hold on for a while, we can leave safely. The day they left was around the same time as the heaven serene bird's arrival, which was 3 to 5 days later. As long as they could hold on for a few days, they would be transported out. On the other side, the array master from the Palace of Gods of War angrily returned to the Tsungsung Pavilion. He told them what had happened, which immediately caused those people to be dissatisfied. What? You're saying that the Murong family didn't cooperate? Damn it, those idiots. They don't want to live anymore. Humph, we don't need them. We'll break it ourselves. As long as we break the array, they'll definitely kneel down and beg us. The Palace of Gods of War's expression was ferocious. Then, they gathered everyone to break the array. They all began to act. They didn't dare to hold back anymore. Time quickly passed. In the blink of an eye, the day of the heaven serene bird's arrival arrived. The Tsungsung Pavilion had been busy for half a month, but they still couldn't break the array. Now they were like frosted eggplants. Each of them sat on the ground with a face of despair. The stellar pagoda. Lin Xian opened his eyes and adjusted himself to his peak state. He knew that they would soon have to face the heaven serene bird. This was a matter of life and death. If they could hold on, then they could leave safely. Otherwise, they would all die here. Fortunately, they weren't completely unprepared. At least he still had the stellar key in his hand, and after half a month of research, he was already able to control it. Not only that, he also had the Tsungsung sword. This was something that the heaven serene bird was wary of. Thinking about it, these two together could restrain the heaven serene bird. If it really didn't work, he could still control the 10,000 bee sting. This was his biggest trump card. After all, the 10,000 bee sting was a complete Earth-class artifact. It also had a special suppressive effect on monsters. Although he couldn't display the full power of the 10,000 bee sting with his current strength, he could still use it to a certain extent. After all, Lin Xian's goal wasn't just to restrain the heavenly netherbird. He also wanted its essence blood and black flames. The sky was clear and cloudless. However, it suddenly became gloomy. Countless gusts of wind blew, emitting demonic sounds. Suddenly, everyone felt an oppressive aura. It was as if a peerless demon had come into being. That aura made them despair. Bang, bang, bang. After that, a deep voice rang out. Then, the entire Pine Palace shook violently as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting apart. Immediately after, a low voice sounded in everyone's ears. Lowly worms, have you completed your mission? Hearing this voice, many of the martial artists in Pine Pavilion began to tremble. This was because they had not completed their mission. On the Star Pavilion's side, Lin Xian and the others held their breaths. They had obtained the Star Key, but it didn't mean that they would obediently hand it over to the heavenly netherbird. However, if they didn't hand it over to the heavenly netherbird, it would definitely be angered. Therefore, everyone was extremely nervous. Bang! The mountain in front of them crumbled and the Big Dipper array finally dimmed. A huge crack had been torn open by the heavenly netherbird. Then, the heavenly netherbird's huge body crashed into the Big Dipper array and appeared in front of everyone. Roar! A terrifying roar echoed throughout the 9 heavens and 10 earths. It was as if the entire secret territory was going to be turned upside down. countless black flames were like black waves that slammed in all directions. Accompanying it was a terrifyingly hot aura. Just the aura from the heavenly Netherbird was enough to make them unable to breathe. Someone actually obtained the star key. The heavenly Netherbird revealed a surprised expression. Ha ha ha, good, good, good. You didn't disappoint me. A loud and clear voice resounded throughout the entire Pine Palace. What, they obtained the star key? How is that possible? Did they break the ancient array? Hearing the heavenly Netherbirds' words, the people from the Palace of Gods of War were stunned. Originally, they thought that the Murong family was the same as them and hadn't broken the array. That was why they had given up and refused to cooperate with them. But now, it seemed that they were completely wrong. The other party wasn't giving up, they were clearly confident. Because they had already broken the array, they didn't need to cooperate with them. They had already completed the task that the heavenly Netherbird had given them. Now they were the ones in danger. No, we can't just sit here and wait. Let's go and meet up with those people. The group of people were terrified. They knew that the star key was their last hope. In the next moment, all the cultivators from the Samsung Pavilion ran with all their might towards the Star Pavilion. The heavenly Netherbird didn't care about these cultivators. He was staring at the people from the Star Pavilion, but he was actually staring at Lin Xian. This was because he could feel that the key to the star chain was in Lin Xian's hands. So it's you. No wonder I didn't know in advance. You're a fish that slipped through the net. The heavenly Netherbird was indeed surprised. This was because he had planted the black flame mark in everyone's body. As long as someone had the star key, he would be able to sense it. However, there were two exceptions. They were Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. They didn't have the black flame mark on them. So even if Lin Xian had the star key, the heavenly Netherbird wouldn't know. Kid, I have to say that you've surprised me. First, you were able to enter the Big Dipper array. Now, you've obtained the star chain's key. Your strength has exceeded my expectations. Now, give me the star key and I can spare your life. The heavenly Netherbbird's loud voice rang out. However, Lin Xian shook his head. You want the key? Sure, but you have to let them go first. Lin Xian pointed at the surrounding cultivators. Suddenly, the surrounding cultivators were shocked. They looked at Lin Xian with eyes full of gratitude. This was because they didn't expect that Lin Xian would let them go first. This was to protect them. Lowly worm. You have no right to negotiate with me. Hearing Lin Xian's words, the heavenly Netherbird was displeased. Who was he? He was an ancient demon beast. Even a king couldn't do anything to him. But now, a lowly worm dared to negotiate with him. This was simply courting death. Do you believe that if you provoke me, I can kill all of you with one palm? The heavenly Netherbbird's voice was cold as he stared at Lin Xian. I'll give you one last chance. Obediently give me the star key. Otherwise, all of you will die. Hearing the heavenly Netherbbird's words, the surrounding cultivators' hearts beat wildly. They were extremely nervous. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.